we'll give it a try.
Well, okay.
Okay, so I call this meeting to order, and would you please join me in pledge?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so now, Kathy, will you please do roll call, and we do have to pay attention on the internet. We do have a couple of council people that are zooming in. That'd be Dad, Stephen Harper, and Judy. So go ahead, Kathy.
Okay. Mayor McGowan,
Here.
Matthew Lund,
Present.
John Glondo,
Here.
Sarah Lackey,
Here.
Stephen Harper,
Present.
Jamie Mosak is not going to be here tonight.
Is she
Beth
gonna
Williams?
She's doing it. No.
She sent an email that she's ill tonight, so, and asked to be excused. I just got it right before the meeting.
Okay.
I think I told Rob. Beth Williams?
Here.
Ken Ratliff?
Here.
Ken is here. Is that it? Oh,
You're muted, Ken.
Kathy, you're muted.
You're still muted. So there
That's
you
why I
go.
nodded, yeah. That's it.
No, so, I make a motion to. Second. Move the seconded to council. With that, all in favor, aye. Aye.
Aye.
Sorry about that. Those opposed. And, that is huge. So now, I'm going to have two council members that we have here that we will do ceremonial swearing in. So how about if you two stand up? And I gave them a cheat sheet so they don't have to exactly repeat after me. So this oath state of Washington County City has. So John Rolando and Sarah Lackey. I do affirm that I'm a citizen of the United States of America. I am a citizen of the United States of America. And of the state of Washington. And the state of Washington. And that I will support the Constitution and laws of the United States. That I will support the Constitution and laws of the United States. And the Constitution and laws of the state of Washington. The Constitution and laws of the state of Washington. And will do to the best of my judgment, skill, and ability. And will to the best of my judgment, skill, and ability. Truly, faithfully, diligently, and impartially perform the duties of the office of city council. That's why we truly, faithful, diligent, and impartially perform the duties of the office of city council of the city of and for City of Stafford County, Washington, as the duties, as such duties are prescribed by law. In and for City of Stafford County, Washington, as such duties are prescribed by law. Sarah, are you going to do that? Sure. So you start off with whoever you are. I do affirm that I'm a citizen of the United States of America.
You affirm that I am a citizen of the United States of America.
and of the state of Washington. That I will support the Constitution and laws of the United States and the Constitution and laws of the state of Washington, and will, to the best of my judgment, skill and ability, truly, faithfully, and diligently, and impartially perform the duties of the office of the city council of the city of Elum, and in force, well, I don't know, and in force, Washington. At such duties of this. Thank you. And just so everybody knows, they were sworn in on the 10th of January because the law required that. And so I took all these, John, Sarah, and Stephen Harper, and sworn in myself. So in any case, we don't do that very often, and I have to do it. So on the meeting agenda, there's a couple of things we're going to pull off the agenda.
So I would make a motion that we approve the agenda with the following amendments. Removing item 8A, the Chamber of Commerce report, and removing item 11B.
I don't care about any of this. I just want to wait till it gets to. Right.
And I would also, 11B. And then further, I would ask that we have council member comment between items 12 and 13.
What are the thinking and council member comments?
I have a couple of comments I was going to make, particularly about our meeting date and changing map and all sorts of other meetings related.
Can you repeat what you said about 10?
10. I'm moving, so it's moving the A and 11D.
Not hearing a second. Just someone making a motion.
Second.
Oh, it's all very good. Okay, thank you.
Moved and seconded. Moved and seconded to approve the meeting agenda with the removal of 8A Chambers report under public appearance. 11D ordinance 1526, budget amendment, and adding 12A, and that's council comment. Questions on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor with aye.
Aye.
Waiting for that. Those opposed? Hearing none, the motion is carried. Okay, now going to the word of recognition. One of the things that we have to establish is we left off one of our last meetings with to set a date for a study session on the council handbook on procedures. And the 31st next meeting, you.
Yeah, I was going to propose that.
I won't, I would ask the.
The next council meeting is February 14th. Well, that's not the so there's a calendar. How about the week of that? 8th, 9th, 10th, what's the
9, 10, 11 will work for me.
about the 9th of the week? 9th should work for me. Yeah.
But that,
Oh, that's yeah, can you hear this at all?
Everything's so distorted, I can't hear what you guys are talking about to do any voting. I wonder if Kathy turned off her app, if that would help. If Kathy muted, maybe that would help.
We're trying to turn you guys after I need to talk.
So that we're trying to establish a date for a study session on council procedures management. And we're talking about February 9th. Wednesday.
Just a second, I'll check.
February 9th is good for me.
I am working February 9th.
How about February 8th? 10th.
Also working.
Sorry. How about the 10th?
10th, I'm free.
Good with the 10th also.
Even said it's okay on the 10th.
I do talk about overtime. All right. Well, we go to the week.
That's Thursday.
Yeah. So what about the second? About the second? How about the second?
yeah. Yeah.
Good with the second.
Second of February.
The second week?
No, February 2.
I work the 2nd and 3rd of February. I am free the 14th, 15th, and 18th, or the 31st, 1st, and 4th.
All right. Right. Okay. Do it Friday. 18. Then you guys do that. Stephen, can you do February 18th?
I can do any day but a Sunday.
You gonna do any day?
For me.
6, 8. No. We have questions. We need to look at it, read it, think about it, and have more than just one extra. It's important for you to live by it. So is that okay? It's helpful? 6 days?
Did you say the 18th?
18th, yeah.
Okay.
Good to me.
All right. We'll be ready. Okay, that's it for announcements, appointments, recognition. We're down to the consent agenda.
I have a question about the minute. Do we normally report the unanimous vote, obviously, it's obvious. For like a unanimous vote, it's obvious, then everyone voted in favor of it, but when we have votes for the abstention, do we normally, I thought we normally recorded the council members' votes, but in the minutes here, says, you know, 6 in favor, 1 opposed.
If we do a full vote, we do. So it can be requested.
So we went there over the order.
Yeah.
Then I got to move the consent agenda.
Second. Move the seconder to present, to accept the consent agenda. Questions on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor of aye.
I,
Okay, that's even in that, right?
Elum City Council.
Right now?
Absolutely. But you know what?
Hearing none.
Mayor McGowan,
What's that?
Mayor McGowan,
Kathy, yes.
Mayor, if you could repeat who made the motion and who seconded, that would help me a lot because I'm not able to hear. Thank you.
The motion to accept the consent agenda was by Matthew Lund. The second was by John Malone. He could not be that. Okay.
Okay, if I may,
Yeah.
all the participants on the Zoom are having a very hard time hearing the council. And I'd suggest we take a break and try and do some tech wizardry or have council members maybe call in by phone. But at this point, none of us can hear you guys. We can hear Beth, and that's about it.
Okay, we'll do that.
There's also an awful squeal. Really awful squeal coming through.
Okay, so we think video or go through that. So. That's why I'm sitting here. Everybody else, they're sitting relaxing. Perfect. Just the volume up, so the radio takes the microphone into our hand. Okay, let's try that.
Exactly, because they can't hear you.
Because your microphone is right here.
So let's just all count, you got all pick it up and put it right up. It's almost like the.
So, Alex, we're gonna experiment.
Yeah, Alex.
Each council person speaking directly into their microphone.
So Alex, can you unmute?
Yes, Rob, I can hear you.
Okay, we're gonna test out. I mean, each, you gotta have this right there all the time.
Alex, we're gonna try having each council person speak directly into the microphone. Can you hear me okay? She can hear us. Alex, this is Jay. Can you hear me at all? No.
I'm catching every fifth word.
Huh. So if they called in, it's just gonna echo.
Hang on.
Try it now, Jay.
Okay, Alex, I'm speaking again. Can you hear me at all? And every other word, like I said before.
Let's try it, Matthew.
Hi, Alex. Can you hear me?
It's very echoey and it's not easy to hear.
We could try that and not worry about
Everybody
the,
can hear us. We can talk off.
they're off? Okay. Should I move it forward?
Alex, the speakers in the room are off. And we're gonna, can you hear me? Can you understand me at all now? Reverend J, those are no longer.
So they're no longer amplified. We're gonna just try this speaker. And, you wanna go on that side? Well, can you, go over there? And I'll hand it to you.
Which way do you want it pointed?
Well, it's right there in the middle. 'Cause we're just looking for sound now.
There, now there's no more video. So nobody's gonna see it.
So the only microphone that's picking up everything is right here. Hey, Alex, can you hear me okay now?
Yes,
Alex, can you hear me?
yes,
We're gonna, Ken, and Alex, this is Ken. Can you hear me?
not quite as well as the others, but yes, better.
How about now without the mask?
Yes,
Okay. Let's try, now, let's hang on. Matthew? Alex, this is me projecting.
good.
John? Alex, this is John. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Can we just take the mask off?
I'm saying, oh, okay, now we're gonna see whether or not you can hear our new councilperson, Sarah.
Hi, Alex, can you hear me?
can barely hear her. Nice to meet you.
So Sarah, you need to put the mic, oh, there is no microphone.
No mic.
You have to yell at the camera.
Yeah.
I could just move this a little bit closer to Sarah.
There's no problem hearing that.
That's true.
And Matthew, you could even sit
So,
closer if you want.
Alex, we moved the microphone and we're gonna do our sound check again. Can you still hear me?
Barely.
Alex, it's Ken. How's this?
You're good, Ken.
Alex, this is John. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Hi, Alex, it's Sarah again. Can you hear me?
yes,
We're in business.
Except that she can barely hear me, right?
well, now you're back, Jay.
Hi, Alex, this is Steve. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Okay.
this is Mike. Can you hear me?
yes,
Okay, so then I think the mask needs it. Andy.
Yes, okay, these aren't working at all. Okay, Alex, we're gonna get started again, and what we were just calling for a vote on the consent agenda. And,
part-time city attorney, part-time sound check girl.
okay, just so the people in the audience will know, we were talking with our city attorney, who's online, that needs to be able to hear what we're saying.
So does
Alex, did you hear this? Alex?
Yep, I can hear you, Greg.
Okay, great, thank you.
So that mic is working.
That was working.
Okay, so when they come up to give a public appearance, they can use this one. Okay, Alex, we're going to, if it gets bad, you just let us know again. We'll figure this out.
Will do.
So all those in favor with aye?
Hi.
Aye.
Those opposed? Hearing none, the consent agenda is been accepted with the, yes. Okay, so now we're going to have officer reports, and we'll see how well you can hear Rob Ullman, our city administrator.
I'll just come up here.
This, I need to talk to that. You said please adjust the microphone.
Okay. All right,
So come up here and talk to the microphone.
okay, I think you can hear me even without the mic. Can you hear me okay on the Zoom land? All right, so anyways, I hear nothing, so it's okay. All right, so my report today is going to be hopefully kind of brief because of the very busy agenda. Anyway, hey, Happy New Year, everybody. I mean, this is the first meeting of the year. 2021 was very busy. We do have our city engineer here. There's some exciting things, projects that are coming out of last year. But let me start real quick with the building department. The year-end numbers for 2021, basically I permitted 82 permits. Compare that to 2020, there was 101 permits, a little bit down. For the permit fees, I brought in almost $89,000, about 10,000 less than 2020. Also for the inspections were up for 362 for last year. For the IT department, working on refreshing, I guess is the word, for the iPads. A lot of councilmen had to turn in their iPads. Some of the planning commission that didn't go as quick as I thought originally. A lot of them hadn't been managed yet, so I had to spend a couple days on that. Also, the IT department had to go to the police department a few times. The roof leaks, and so what happened is it started to corrode some of the jacks, the internet jacks. So I had to rerun some lines there to keep them up and running. And then another IT, the snow event back in our alley. The alley actually raised about 2 feet. So when
Like, don't mess with my food, and I won't mess with you.
And he is old, he moves very fast. He needs a stick.
Newland, you can use yourself. We're here. There you go. Anyways, the dump truck or a garbage truck was.
How tractor was made at first.
And all right, there. If you look on the right, then
It was Tom, and somehow he unmuted himself.
okay. It's hard to be in two places.
Yeah, go ahead.
Anyways, moving on. And I'm not going to spend much time on the weather emergency, only because everybody got the recap. If you guys didn't get the recap, I've got a copy of it here. But one thing I just wanted to say is that the administration, which means the mayor, myself, and all the department heads, we worked extremely well together. I mean, that morning we were all on the phone. We were looking at and on the side here, obviously too. I mean, it just went really well. It was like awkward. I won't go much into that at all. But if you have questions, you can ask me. And that's all my report.
Yeah, speaking loudly at something. Yeah, I was curious, have we ever gone to the center position yet? What's the latest on that?
Yeah,
I couldn't hear what you said.
Have we advertised the city planner position yet? I know we're working on job description.
We have the job description, we have not.
we have the job description. And we're actually going to work on it tomorrow. And get it moved. Thanks for that. That's a good question.
I got one question. On this, you asked the questions on the snow removal.
Sure.
Okay, we own a business on 400 First Street, and you cleaned off 3 of the corners. And our corner on the Winnie Foundation side, our customers can't hardly see get out. I cleaned the driveway off, the sidewalk off before the big snow, as much as I could. And then, of course, when you have the bigger snow, it has to go. And I know you guys have done a great job, but we have a problem with my customers and my neighbors that have like 3 condos or something there, to get out on the road to be able to see. and the garbage trucks can't even pick up the garbage. And I was just curious if you, and I've talked to several people that you've been working on the road, and they said it's in progress, and we're just waiting.
Right, so, I mean, we don't have the contractors anymore, we're not, we've stopped that, so it's our team that, you know, going along and gonna figure that out. We can look at that intersection. We have also been working with Waste Management because they couldn't get down the alley. Well, they could get down the alley, but they couldn't pick up the garbage. So we're trying to work with all of the customers to put your garbage on the main road.
And we're not open on Monday and Tuesday, so you can do anything you want, you can work in our parking lot.
Well,
If you need to.
okay, we'll look at that intersection.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Yeah.
My only other question is, so I love the communication about the snow emergency and all the updates. And then the mayor declared another emergency before the end of the year. And I only found out about it because I happened to be on the city's website and saw it. I don't think the council has any communication about it. And I was just hoping that again, when things like an emergency are declared in town, that we could know about it.
Are you talking about this?
The sewer.
Yeah, okay, yeah, you got it.
You're right.
We'll keep you informed. That's on our list of things we need to improve on.
Okay, I appreciate it.
But is there another question?
Yes. Well, first of all, I'd like to give the city staff, the public works director, and the city manager tremendous respect and kudos to the job they did in moving all that stuff. I mean, they worked tirelessly, hours and hours and hours, 24 hours a day. I think they did a good run of the water and they handled things.
Thank you, Ron.
You got it.
And now we'll hear from our Public Works Director, Mike Engelhardt. Here, Mike.
I'm here. I stood over into the other room so everybody can hear me talk through Zoom world. Thank you, Honorable Mayor, council members. Thanks everyone for your comments on the concerns with the snow removal. One of the things my staff is doing and has been doing since the contractors were done is actually working down every avenue, making sure that all of the intersections are safe and visible for pedestrians as well as vehicle traffic. The statement was made about the sidewalks getting cleared and guardrails, but not specific areas. The other thing that we emphasized on with our storm drain was pedestrian safety. We had several pedestrians almost get hit walking up First Street Hill because that's their only access and only way, their only mobile way is to walk. And so we had several that were walking up First Street. Anyone that knows there's a lot of traffic on that street. So we put a big emphasis on getting First Street Hill and Second Street Hill sidewalks open so that we had safe pedestrian pathways to and from the services that they needed. So we are working on the intersections. We're also working on the alleys. We're working on getting as much snow removed from the residential areas that we can. That way there, when the next event comes, which at this point is forecasted for about 10 days from now, we have storage to move this snow. We appreciate all the citizens that have moved their garbage carts out front. We are going to start working on expanding the alleys and widening those so that everything can get back to normal as soon as possible. When we have that much snow come as fast as it did, we kind of have to make sure we get everything opened up for EMS and emergency services, and everything kind of has a priority list, and trash wasn't at the top of my list for the last couple of weeks, so I apologize. Let's see, we are also working on the emergency sewer main replacement there on Billings Avenue. That is so far on key to be finished mid next week. Everything so far is going as expected on that. Haven't ran into too many unforeseen obstacles, but at this point, that's all I got for now, if there's no questions.
So let's see, are we, well, let's check with Alex and find out
if she can hear what we're saying.
I can hear you, Jay.
My phone has a battery in it. Oh, Alex, are you out there?
I am.
So what were you saying, Alex? You can hear us okay now?
I can hear you, Jay.
Great. Okay. Now, how about the video? Can people online see the video now?
Yes.
Okay. So Ben is going to give us.
You're gonna have to mute that.
Now we've got a bunch of feedback here.
We'll unmute when we need to hear from you.
Okay,
we ready to
Ben.
rock and roll?
Yeah,
Got
see
this
whether or not
dialed
you
in?
can give your presentation.
All right.
It's a good thing you got here.
This is why I came tonight instead of the Zoom. Last time we had it in the senior center, it was the same thing. It's just, it's a big auditorium. It's just, it's tough. So appreciate everybody's patience. And so for the record, Ben Annan with HL Engineering, contract city engineer. Appreciate the opportunity for an officer's report tonight. I thought what we'd do is reflect a little on last year's successes in terms of grants and then how those are going to play into the upcoming capital improvements for this calendar year. You should have 4 sheets in your council packet there. The first one is just a table that's got some green rows on it and a yellow row that was somewhat intentional. Being from Wisconsin, I was hoping for a Packer victory. That did not happen. So let's disregard the colors tonight. So last year there were 11 funding applications that the city applied for capital projects, and 8 of those were successful. The 8 successful ones are shown in green. The white ones are the ones that were unsuccessful. And then that one at the bottom there in yellow is one that is yet to be announced, but I had a phone call with the program director last week and it's with the underwriter currently. So that means it's in the approval process. So yeah, pretty darn good year last year in terms of grants, success rates to the tune of just over $3 million. And that does not include the TIB Complete Streets grant that'll be announced in March. And so that number should be further north of 3 million come a couple months from now. We'll walk through those real quick. The first is the phase 3A, which is the downtown revitalization. It's the next phase that was through the 2021 Kittitas County Distress Grant Program, also known as the .09 program. That was a $450,000 grant. The next one down was the capital budget request. That was for a large portion of the phase 3 downtown revitalization. That was for a request of $2.5 million. It did not get funded. We had a follow-up debrief with representatives and the request was just too high. The intent there was to come back the supplemental budget this year with a smaller request, which we'll talk about that in a little bit, about that, what that request looks like. The next one down there is the 2nd Street pathway design. That was through the Surface Transportation Block Grant Program. That's a Federal Highway Administration grant program. That was for just under $225,000. And that's for the design of the 2nd Street pathway project. Next one down on the list, the Stafford Avenue corridor improvements. This is inclusive of water main replacement as well as reconstructing that corridor along Stafford. And that was through the Community Development Block Grant Program through Department of Commerce. And that was for $800,000. The next request was the West First Street resurfacing project. This is just that short block between Billings and Oaks for resurfacing that segment. That's the part that's not maintained by DOT, just west of Oaks there. That was through TIB, and that one was not funded. And I think primarily because another TIB application went in that was competing for the TIB money, which is the next project down, the Douglas Monroe Boulevard and West First Street signalization project. That was a TIB grant in the amount of $525,000. Continuing to move down the list, the Complete Streets program. That one, the city was awarded a nomination, but you won't know the actual dollar amount until March when those awards are announced. Next on the list is the First Street Revitalization Phase 3B project, which is consistent of the Pennsylvania Avenue to Harris Avenue North Block. That was also through a Surface Transportation Block Grant Federal Highway Administration program, amount just under $750,000. The next one down, the First Street and Pine Street signalization. that was competing against the previous project. And so that's the reason that one was not funded. And then finally, the First Street Downtown Revitalization Phase 3A expansion. So now there's 3 phases that'll be constructed this next summer. That was through the 2022.09 grant program. So that's just a quick summary of the capital grants that were secured last year. The bottom one there in yellow again is one that is to be announced by the Drinking Water State Revolving Fund here in the next couple of weeks, but it is in the approval process. Moving on to the next sheet in your packet there's a vicinity map that's got the 2022 capital projects listed. There's 7 projects shown on that map. The first one being the big one, the downtown revitalization. So we talked about the 3 funding sources. Originally, that project was set up to be, independent phases, constructed independently, but the beauty of the timing, having all 3 programs awarded at once there within a 6-month period. Now we can plan ahead, package all those together. We can peak contractor interest that way, economy of scale. It'll be a great thing for the city and hopefully get more competitive bids that way. Number 2 there on the list, that's the 2nd Street pathway. The limits are from Stafford Avenue clear down to Short. That is a design only project with the intent of having plans ready, shovel ready for next time there's a stimulus bill, or if there's another opportunity where funding programs want shovel ready projects. You'll hear that term a lot. And by having something that's on the shelf ready to be built with all the environmental permitting, you typically score a lot better in the scoring process with these competitive programs. The 3rd project there, Mike touched on briefly, the Billings Avenue sewer replacement. That was a section of sewer along Billings Avenue, just under First Street there, that collapsed back in December. The city public works crews have been real busy maintaining that line due to the collapse, which essentially requires daily manhole vacuuming to ensure that there aren't any backups there. So that was a critical project. There was an emergency declared for that. Contractor was secured and they started work last week with hopes to finish up middle of next week. Number 4 there, the Park and Ride. This is a project that was funded through DOT's Regional Mobility Grant Program. It's about a $700,000 grant to build a park and ride there at the intersection of Oaks and Railroad. That project, the design is underway. It's at a 90% level at this point and will be constructed this summer. Number 5, city safety improvements. This is also another DOT grant through their Highway Safety Improvement Grant Program. There's various locations in the city. It's a pretty small project, but the first is location of Floral and 2nd. There was a serious collision there a couple of years back, which gained some traction from DOT. There'll be a new street light as well as flashing stop signs at that intersection, which will really improve safety. The other location of that project is at First Street and the creek there. The guardrail is deficient. Years back, there was a collision there as well that caught some attention of DOT, and there'll be 2 parts to that. It'll be guardrail replacement as well as there's a really large driveway right there adjacent to the creek that is just inviting for vehicles to drive straight off of First and into the creek. That'll be removed, replaced with full height curb, as well as new sidewalk along there, routing pedestrians along the bridge. So that'll be a good safety improvement as well. Number 6 on the list is the Stafford Avenue corridor. We touched on that briefly on the funding, but that'll replace the water main as well as reconstruct that grade up to 7 Hill. Unfortunately, with the snowfall that came here at the start of the year, the plan was to hit the ground running with the design on that one, which requires a lot of field work for the survey. With the 3.5 feet of snow, definitely had to hit the pause button on survey, and we're hopeful to get out there in maybe a month and a half, 2 months, assuming winter 2.0 doesn't come again in February like we're typically accustomed to seeing. And then finally, number 7 is the First Street and Douglas Monroe Signal Project. That is up by Safeway there. The level of service is fairly poor at that intersection, especially for crossing traffic. And so this will really improve the level of service for both the main route and the minor street for folks that are crossing to go into Safeway. So all of those projects are planned for construction with the exception of 2nd Street pathway. This calendar year, it's going to be a very busy summer again for the city. But that's what happens when you're successful at securing grants like the city was last year. So any questions on the capital improvements? Steven.
Real quick, the question was on the park and ride. Has there been any discussion or suggestion about having an RV dump included in that?
No, that was purely just transportation based. There weren't any utility impacts with that one, and there wasn't any studies of a dump station there. Any other questions? There is one more attachment there in your packets. It's basically a brochure of the downtown revitalization. It's a two-sided handout there, and that's what went in with the capital budget request that was submitted last week. You'll notice on the first page there, we tried to simplify the exhibit. Wanted to make sure we were telling the whole story, starting with the planning that happened back in 2017, the public process, the design, phase 1, phase 2, really capture all the momentum that the city's had these last few years. And there's 3 funding level requests that were submitted to the state. The first being just under $500,000 to complete that funding gap there for phases 3A and 3B. The second being a $1.8 million request, which would construct all the improvements west of Harris along the corridor, both sides of the street. And then finally, the largest funding request of $5.8 million. That was for the balance of the project to get it constructed. The first one is what Representative Ibarra was real excited about there at that funding level due to the supplemental budget. Anything beyond a $500,000 request likely wouldn't gain much traction during this legislative session. Any questions on that handout? All right, well, that is all I had tonight. I appreciate the opportunity, and we'll keep chasing every grant opportunity that there is to advance some of these capital projects.
Next on the agenda is our police chief. First, connect with this.
Good again. Oh, Kirk, I don't know if you could hear me or not.
Now I can.
I was
Yes.
giving you a heads up. You're next on the agenda. Thank you.
Well, thank you, member and council, and welcome to our new council and our returning council members. Yeah, 2022 really started off busy for us this year. I'm sure you're aware of all the events that we've been dealing with in Roslyn and trying to help them and their fire department, et cetera. We did a quick synopsis of some of the things that we've had to go through the winter storm event. We got those turned in. I'm assuming everybody got to see those, so I won't touch base on that for brevity. But if you have any questions, by all means ask. So far this year, our new hire to replace Officer Uren that retired last year has started. And hopefully I'll be able to bring Matt Anderson into a Zoom or an in-person meeting so you all can meet him. And he's excited to be here. The new position that was created for us for 2022, that'd be position number 9, is underway. We've received some lateral applications, so we're pretty excited about that. We've received some very good lateral applications. We did meet with civil service, discuss the hiring process again, and they gave us the go ahead to start doing that. So we're going to be advertising for that shortly. And our new cars came in. FCI out of North Bend is who we went through to get the cars, and they did a bang up job getting them put out to us quickly. They knew we were in dire need of cars, and they got those out to us quick. All 3 of them are actually here and being used. They're not completely set up yet. There's some radio tweaks, etc., that still needs to be programmed, but they are usable. So we're very grateful for that. And finally, I'll just touch on, we did receive a grant from Aspen for the recording equipment in our interview room. We were very pleased to have that. I applied for that last year, and we were awarded that for this year. And that is necessary because our old system is failing really bad. It's over 15 years old. As a matter of fact, Aspen is the one that funded that over 15 years ago. And with the new state requirements for interviews and recording of such interviews, it was necessary that we had a updated system that was reliable. So they came through for us. That has been ordered. It'll be a little while before we get all the parts and get it installed. What I was really glad to see is the same company that we use to get the car video cameras and the body cameras is able to do the interview rooms. So what that means is we will have that same software, that same recording, the same iCloud storage, retraction, all of the software behind our current video will apply to the interview room. So that'll really help our records management process as well. And that's all I have unless there's questions.
Thank you, Kirk.
You're welcome.
Now we're going to have our Fire Chief Ed Mills report to the city.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, City Council. First, I'd like to welcome our new council members and congratulations. Looking forward to working with you this new year. I've got a few things to report tonight. I'll give you a run report for the month of December. We had a total of 44 calls, 2 fires, 33 aid, 6 calls logged as other, and 2 false alarms. The fires, we had 1 vehicle fire at Gravity Parking. This was an electrical fire. It was extinguished upon arrival. The second fire was a chimney fire that was contained to the flue. The year-end report for 2021, we had 543 calls for the year of 2021. That was up 15% over last year at 470 calls, or actually for 2020 at 470 calls. This year, the fire or other page was slightly higher than our normal years, which usually EMS runs about 80%. This year, it was down to about 76.24. And then being down or from the previous year, false alarms being slightly down from 4.89% in 2020 to 3.87 in 2021, and just contributing that to a little bit more education to the public. A little later, I'll be addressing a couple of things. We've got the interlocal agreement with Roslyn that needs to be touched on. And then we also have the EMS budget that we'll be looking at. And then tomorrow I'll be headed to KitCom. And we're going to be meeting with Director George Long, Chief Jackson from Ronald Fire District 6, along with the City Fire Chief of Roslyn. We're going to be addressing those run cards to make sure those are updated and looking forward to getting that up to date. It was asked by one of the council members why Cleome wasn't paged to Roslyn automatically. This was simply because we haven't finished that interlocal agreement. There were some changes from attorneys, and we're going to be touching on that in a little bit. I'm looking forward to serving you guys in the year of 2022. And that's all I have. Anybody have any questions for me at this time?
Okay, thank you, Ed. So next, we're going to hear from our viola operator, William LaRue. Are you there, William?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Mayor?
Yes, we can hear you fine. Thank you.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the council. Congratulations on achieving your seats on the council. I would like to extend an invitation to all of you council members, both new and existing, to have a tour of our water and wastewater treatment facilities. I believe that it's very important that you all have a basic understanding of the treatment systems that we have, so that when I'm standing here before you, usually in person, that you will know what I'm talking about as we discuss the plant issues. If you'd like to schedule a tour, please reach out to me. I can do it onesies, twosies at a time. We can do it all together, whatever works best for you folks. So again, congratulations. I look forward to working with you folks in the coming year. In your packets, you should see my usual graphs. Nothing really startling in there. With the onset of the Arctic weather that we had there at around Christmas or just before Christmas, we actually started running off the well field the week before the cold weather hit in attempt to heat up the distribution system. While the well field water is a little bit harder to treat, it is certainly much warmer and prevents freezing conditions going on in the distribution systems. Staff had been very busy, as well as everybody else, in removing snow from the water plant and the intake. A big thanks to Mike Engelhardt and Aaron Barr for their efforts to push back our snow piles the day before the big storm hit. And again, thanks to Mike for sending up a loader to help clear us out after the storm subsided for both the intake, the water plant, and the wastewater plant. While we were on the well fields, everything was running good. Last week, we lost communications with the well field. The snow load that was on the building took out our antenna. We were unable to get down in there because state and or county had plowed us in and we had no access to it. So again, thanks to Matt McKenzie for running down there today with the loader and punching a hole through there so we could get in. We've got communications reestablished, so we will start bringing in that warmer water from the well field again as we move forward. This past weekend, we had issues up at the water treatment plant with the PLC programming. I don't understand why or how, but the PLC coding for the chlorine feed system somehow became corrupt and was not allowing the plant to start up. It was sending out all kinds of different alarms that was shutting the plant down, causing all kinds of major issues. We spent a lot of time poring over PLC code, trying to figure out what was going on. Spent a lot of time in there trying to keep the plant running. We finally ended up with a portion of the plant running in auto, another portion of the plant running in manual. Learned a lot about it this weekend, but we've got some issues there. I don't know why this programming all of a sudden just decided that it was going to create a problem for us at this point, even after it had been working for many, many years. So more to come on that one. The cold weather with the that's been at us with the heavy snows and that at the wastewater plant has kept our flows down substantially. Although we've been watching the weather very closely because we're anticipating if it warms up, we're going to have washout issues and flooding down there. So we're paying very close attention to that portion of it. Our VFD replacement project has been pretty much complete. It's about 99% complete. The VFDs have been installed. They've been programmed. There's one issue with a drive parameter on the VFD at the plant, and they will be back on site February 10th to fix that issue with the drive. Last time we spoke, we'd had a garbage truck that was in the river. Since that time, I've spoken with District 7, District 6, KITCOM, Department of Ecology Spill Response, DOT, Kittitas County Sheriffs, all letting them know that we are out there and we need to be notified of any conditions or anything that are happening upriver from us. So hopefully one of those entities will remember that the treatment plant is downstream and will give us a call and a heads up so that we don't have to go through what we went through last time. Other than that, that's my report for the month. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you folks might have.
Does he have to unmute?
There we go. Thanks for changing the water source. It was 5 years ago. We had a hard lesson learned, and you took care of the temperature in the system very well. Thank you for that.
You're welcome, sir.
I think that's it, William. Appreciate all the good work.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, we're at the part of the agenda for citizen comments on non-agenda items. And we request that you come up to the podium and tell us your name and address. And also we'll remind you to keep it as short as possible. But come on up here and address the council. So what do we have going there? We have a microphone for the room and we have a
phone for Zoom.
Phone for the internet.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council, and congratulations to John, Stephen, and Sarah. Great job in getting elected. First thing I'd like to touch base on are the minutes for the last City Council meeting. I got a copy of those minutes, and my comments were detailed in them, and the comments are the exact opposite of what I said. What I handed out at the last meeting at December 13th, a copy of my comments, and effectively what I was saying is that I was opposed to some changes that Mr. Dorn was proposing to the land use processing procedure. So I'd like to at least have that corrected because they're in there backwards. What I'm talking about, this is kind of more for Sarah than anybody. I mean, there's some land use processing placed in September. Some changes, primarily that was being put in place or being proposed to be put in place. Presumably it was copied from some other city. Those were proposed to the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission approved them. They were then moved to the City Council approved them. In November, procedures proposed that had some effect of modifying those previous previous ordinance. Excuse me. It was proposed at the last City Council meeting on the 13th. There were some changes to the ordinances that were not obvious to the council. I brought that up to the, they didn't appreciate those changes. And so tonight, for your review, for you to decide upon. The primary focus that I have as it relates to the changes has to do with something called the preliminary determination of consideration that a developer might present to the city. The board stated that the city would provide a preliminary determination of consistency to the public and to the applicant following the applicant's or the application and the acceptance of that application of being complete. It's being proposed now that that language be changed so that the city is not obligated to provide that, but rather may provide that if they happen to have it. I'm asking asking the city council in an attempt to be visible to the public so we know what the heck is going on and have some understanding, they make decisions that they see. Mr. Dorn is going to tell you that the language that the city previously had, which again, some other city determined it to be appropriate, he's going to say that that's not consistent with that. It's not inconsistent with the code. And if you want to leave that in there, leave it in there the way that he's going to propose it. But I'm asking you to add the language that previously existed. I have a copy of the code that he is going to reference tonight. Can I hand out a copy of this? I need one of them actually. Mr. Dorn is going to reference one particular item within this code. And he's has to that has to be included because that's Washington code. But along with that one item, there are 8 other items in there, and the majority of them do not show up in the new code. I'm talking about this just as it relates to the inconsistencies and the oddities that I continue to watch. And I'm asking the city council that if you're not ready to make a decision on whether or not you're going to accept changes tonight, then kick it down the road and do a little reading on your own, because to some of us this is very obvious. Again, a solution. I'm a solution guy here. Accept the language that he wants to change, and following on any other information determined appropriate by the local government can be included. So include the language that you currently have in play, and that'll solve the problem. On whether or not their proposed development would fit within the city code. The planning department took it upon themselves. They provided, and the city should be able to do it. I'll talk real briefly about Mr. Preliminary Determination of Consistency. That a determination of consistency needs further review after public comment and after staff has done what they have done. Preliminary is just that. Gee, somebody's asking to do this. Is it obvious that it doesn't fit? Or does it look like maybe it will, and maybe with some movement, it can? That's all we're asking for, is that bit of insight. And I will tell you also, I don't know why Sun Community withdrew its application, but I will tell you that the way it was handled initially by the city was a botched mess. My expectation is that it would have been appealed, and perhaps that was part of the reason why they want to have a new start. When we have the detail involved, this minutia of detail as it relates to these regulations, that someone wants to change right now, they cannot even follow the most basic language that's right in front of you as it relates to the laws and the ordinances that are already in place in the city. again, I ask the council to think real strongly about this. Thank you.
This is not a performance. These people, we have people come here to address the city council. Appreciate you being here, but let's have, it's not good. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Rick Spence. I live at 800 Washington Road, Elum, Washington. You know, I see this entire matter as the snake oil salesman comes to town. He brings something. We have Greg Dorr. Greg's hired by who? He's paid for by who? I said, Greg's hired by who? He's paid for by who? From the city. I see him represent. The fix would be in, the guy be start throwing product out to the general public. Well, that's what's happening here. This is a charade and it needs to be stopped. It's not in the best interest of our community. This is the wrong project for the wrong community. So thank you for your time.
Anyone else wish to address the council? Yes. All right, now we're move on.
Now you can talk.
Okay, go ahead, Dan. I can speak now?
Yeah.
We're going to see if we can connect with people on the Zoom meeting for their comments. So Rob, you'll have to look through the list there. Okay, Greg Gozman.
Hello, Honorable Mayor and Honorable Council members. I just, two comments. One, the speakers, we really couldn't hear them at home. Half of what they said was inaudible. On another note, I just wanted to introduce myself. I put an application in to join the Planning Commission. So I just wanted to say hello. Thank you for your service, and I appreciate your time.
Okay, who else do we have? Thank you, Greg. Everybody out there in Zoom land. Okay, we're going to pause on the internet portion. And we have a speaker here in the audience that wishes to address the council.
Hi, Ingrid Vimont, 291 Nelson Creek Road. Just in light of the last notice that the people on Zoom weren't able to hear, are we going to be able to submit written comments to replace the audio? Okay, great. Thank you.
What was your name?
Ingrid Vimont. Nelson, 291 Nelson Creek Road, Elum. I did.
And can you see anybody else? Internet guys?
I'd like to speak.
Who is it? Tricia.
Patricia, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you for the council for allowing me to speak. My comments are concerning the Sun communities. And if, I think, and I don't know if the council has looked at everything that this will bring to the community. And I think it would actually bring more heartache than it would bring positives. To start with, we don't have enough people to even fund or run another grocery store because there's not enough employees to begin with. So if you add 600 and some homes into one area, not only do we not have the capabilities of handling that much people, we don't have the capabilities of handling the traffic. We don't have the capabilities of handling additional children in our schools with teachers. If you think about how many teachers that's going to require, if you have about, say 650 homes with, say 2 children per home, do the math, that's 1,300 students. You break it up into 3 areas, middle school, elementary, and high school. And that's about 20 plus teachers that you're going to need in each of those schools. So with that being said, our school district is already underfunded and undersourced. So just in the school area, that's a $10 million addition that we're going to need. Take a police department. You're going to have to add between 5 and 8 new police officers to handle this. That's what, about $3 million between getting them trained, hiring, and then having several years of reserves of financials to be able to handle that. Fire department, that's another couple $1 million. This is not a viable resource or a viable thing for our community to have. And the history that Sun Communities, this company, has with other communities across the nation has been incredibly difficult. They have had problems in those communities. Those communities have had issues with how they don't follow through on their contracts with not just the individuals who buy the mobile homes or whatever kind of homes you want to call them, but then they don't follow through with the cities that they contract with. How many years did it take Elum to get Suncadia to follow through? They were supposed to put in a pool for the community. This never happened. Finally, something is starting to move, and that's been what, 20 plus years? So with this being said, I mean, I just labeled a few items, but this is millions and millions. I mean, you need $100 million for the community to make it viable. Somebody better have really deep pockets to make this work, because it's not going to work. And most of the community is against this. Whether you live in Elum or whether you live in one of the outlying other communities, because we're all a part of one area and we all are interdependent upon each other. You have to think about it in that fashion. If you approve this whole shenanigans, you're going to negatively affect every person in this area. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other? How do I make it do this echo?
I just have to have this on because we have.
Few minutes here or seconds. Okay, it doesn't seem as though we're seeing anybody in the chat room or anybody raising their hand. So we'll move on from citizen comments. And we're going to go down to public appearances. And the first one we're going to hear from is Debbie Bogart from the Elum Downtown Association. Debbie, are you there?
I am here. And if I could please share my screen. So good evening. I want to say thank you, Honorable Mayor and council members, for letting me do a presentation tonight, do an update on our Elum Downtown Association. Also, I want to welcome Jamie Mosak and Sarah Lackey to the council. I'm excited to get to know you and learn more about you and have you come down and visit the Downtown Association and learn more about us. I sort of put my presentation together tonight to help both Jamie and Sarah with a little bit more about our downtown. I wanted to report that we have recently nominated and elected new officers. Mark Kirkpatrick is remaining as president. Eliza Stevenson is coming on as vice president. Patricia Jerky is our treasurer. Deanna Haverfield is staying as our secretary. And our board of directors are Adam Crawford, a new director, Liz McAuliffe. Mayor Jay McCown remains on our board. And we have a new one coming on tomorrow, Katie Webb. So with that and with our nothing's sharing. You can't see my
Nothing's actually sharing, Debbie.
Can you see my screen at all, Matthew?
No, it says you've started screen sharing, but nothing's actually shared.
There.
Oh,
How's
there it
that?
goes.
Okay, sorry. Let me go back a little bit here. So you can see the list that we have of our board of directors. Also, I put our mission in here so you're familiar with that, and our values. On the screen, you'll see we have our new logo and our slogan of halfway to everywhere. I want to do a quick recap on Christmas in Elum. It was a wonderful time for us. We were able to go back to some normalcy in our town, and we had a lot of community involvement, a lot of community support. We had 3 weekends of intensive, well, great activities going on. Our markets are very successful. Our Santa Claus visits were successful. We had the Grinch, we had dog cart rides. We had all kinds of things going on downtown, and we heard from our community, and we heard from people visiting that they really enjoyed their time with us here in Elum. When we do our zip code tracking, we can see that we had 17% of our visitors during the month were from out of town. Now, this is just a sampling. It's not a consistent number of thousands of people. It's just who fills us out. But it's interesting to see that 62% of the visitors are from outside of Elum, and that there were 21% of them visiting actually from within our city. If you look at our market analysis, every weekend we increase the number of vendors and the amount of sales going on. We averaged 800 people a weekend in and out of our market. For the first 2 Saturdays, we had 1 market. As soon as the Warrior Den, I knew it was being sold and we had a waiting list, I was on the phone with a new owner, and we had that space open the following weekend for more market vendors. And it was really great because people enjoyed it. It helped make a lot of difference in our downtown. Retail sales were strong. Also, this time of year, and I didn't put this in here, is when our downtown dollars are released. And we have had very strong response to the downtown dollars again. Our vendors and our businesses are really supportive of those. So that's a good thing to know. I wanted to share a few pictures with you, just some of the fun. We had a good participation in our window decorating contest. If you had a chance to drive through town, especially at night, it felt so festive to come through our town and see what people were doing in their windows and how warm and inviting it was. We had a lot of people at our markets, as you can see. Santa Claus was a very, very happy guy. He had, I don't know how many, 10 or 12 sets of twins over the first 2 Saturdays that visited him. Our dog cart rides were very much well received in a new edition this year. They were going to be back next year also. And we're really happy to have them with us. It was a great weekend, and we had fresh snow for it. And Mike Englehart really helped with making sure they had the right path for their cart rides. So we want to thank him for that. they were very appreciative of the work that he did. Some more families, a lot of families downtown, a lot of kids exploring. So it was really fun to see our town come alive. And I know the evening was really positive also for the parade and the fireworks. And I want to give a shout out to the Kittitas County Chamber for putting that on again. It was really well received. So looking at our Main Street strategic plan in 2022, I want to go through that really quickly. We have 4-point approach, and they're all different committees. There's 4 different committees. And you'll see that this year, we're expanding quite a bit when it comes to looking at what our committee groups are going to do. The design committee is going to continue being very strong in seasonal decor, facade, Umpqua Park, spring cleanup, and wayfinding plan. But one of the things they're reaching out to is develop a strategy to help maintain our downtown in good standing. If you remember, we had the good, bad, and ugly walk, and some of the outcomes from that, we're taking a look at, what are some of the things we can do on our storefronts, on our streets? How can we make it cleaner? How can we make it look even more attractive downtown? So we're going to be looking at that. The one thing that's coming to a really big priority here is our rooftop lights. They have gone through just a lot of stress this year. Some of them are 6 years old. We have about half of our lights standing right now. With the sun this summer, the hangers are really destroyed and the wind came. And now with the snow on our rooftops and the shoveling, we have a lot of lights down, and it's becoming very expensive to do the maintenance on these lights. So we're taking a look at what is an alternative that we can do that's a long-term approach to keep our rooftop lights there, because people really enjoy them. And if you're driving into town, you can see the lights from everywhere. They're very attractive. Promotions is a critical part of our downtown. It's a lot of our events and things that we do. You can see since 2019, we've continued to increase the number of events that we're doing. In fact, this year, our arts events at the bottom of the list there, we have 3 different art events that are going to be taking place. One of them is an event that will be with Suncadia and Roslyn. It'll be a 3-day event going on. So we're looking at expanding events however we can, but it's not our main goal. It is one of our strong goals. The other one is promoting historic downtown, working on some new areas there where we can promote not only our museums, but our historic places, and to help promote tourism into town. Our Economic Vitality Committee is one that really just kind of started in 2020 and is getting stronger. One of the things that we're developing is a toolkit and welcome flyer. Every new business that's come into town, they've called me, and I've sent them to Rob because I don't have all the answers on how to start a new business in Elum. So we're giving them a little checklist, a little info pack on what they can do, who they should contact. We're also taking a look at what kind of training should we give our downtown businesses to help them be even stronger or more viable from the storefront end. Our public markets, they were so successful last year. We're looking at how do we do those again this year and where should they be held. So they're a very busy committee also. Our other committee, our 4th committee, is that of outreach. In some Main Street programs, they call this the organization committee, but we call it outreach because our goal is to reach out to the visitor and community. Fundraising is a big one. Board training. Tomorrow we have an all-day board training for our board. Annual gathering for all of our people that come into the downtown, our businesses and our business owners, our volunteers. Quarterly socials are coming back, and our volunteer appreciation is coming back. So you can see we have 4 committees, and in those committees altogether are probably about 40 people who are involved in it, and they're working really hard to make our downtown even more attractive, more vibrant, and more value that we can bring in. Before I leave tonight, one of the things I want to talk quickly about is, because at that time, the Main Street Taxes Credit Incentive Program is now open. And this is a program that funds the Downtown Association. We were fortunate last year in that the legislation increased the amount of money that we are able to have come into our programs. And so we are very busy reaching out to businesses and saying, do you pay into B&O tax dollars? If you do, would you be interested in knowing how you can get some of that back? So we're in the middle of doing that. It's very simple. I mean, if you were to give $1,000 to the Downtown Association, next year you'll get $750 back in B&O tax credit. And because we're a nonprofit, you can also get a nonprofit credit. So we're busy doing this piece, busy doing all kinds of stuff. And the thing that we're not too busy of is to talk with you or meet with you. So please come down or call me or come by. I'd love to talk with you. I'd love to hear your ideas, any thoughts that you have about the work that we're doing, because this downtown association doesn't stand alone. It is an association of businesses, business owners, community, the city, all of us working together to make this town much more vibrant in every way we can. So thank you for listening to me tonight. Are there any questions?
It's pretty quiet here, Debbie.
Okay.
Appreciate the update.
Thank you all. Good night.
Okay, next under public appearances, we'll hear a presentation by Sun Communities. And Bill, I think that's right. You'll come up and let's see what we can do about the sound. Do you have a PowerPoint or? Just give me a minute here.
Sure, and in the meantime, can we just make sure that people on the phone can hear me okay? Oh, great. You know, I think we put some out in the front and I noticed some people in the audience have them. So we'll have it up on the screen as well. And we've provided it to Greg and it will be made public. Okay, great.
Okay, so that half second delay means
Okay, great. All right, I think we're ready to get started. First off, Mayor, Council, thank you for having us tonight. I'm joined tonight by three of my colleagues. Emerson is one of my colleagues at Sun Communities. We have planning partners with us as well, Spencer and Nikki. They've been working tirelessly on this project with us. And I think I speak for everybody. We're very pleased to be here with you tonight. We have had the privilege of working with the town staff now since this project's inception. We've had the opportunity to meet with a number of key stakeholders in the community. We've met dozens of residents. By and large, our experience with the town thus far has been overwhelmingly positive. And before we get started, even going further into this, I want to extend our gratitude to everybody that's worked with us, that's met with us at our community event, the stakeholders that we met with, the school, Kittitas Conservation Trust, Chamber of Commerce, numerous other organizations. We appreciate the kindness that we've been shown, professionalism of the staff. Given we've now closed on the land and we're officially the owner of the Bullfrog Flats UGA, we thought it would be timely for us to come in and introduce ourselves to the council. We understand that this has been an important topic of conversation in the community. And we also want to make sure that we have the opportunity to provide information to you on the project at a high level, address concerns that have been raised, and hopefully we can dispel some of the fears of the community as we continue through this planning process, for which we are really in the middle stages. Before we begin with the formal presentation, I'd also like to emphasize that we understand how important this development is to the community. And our approach thus far and our approach as we continue will be to approach this with a spirit of partnership, collaboration, transparency, and we wish to build a relationship with this community that's based on trust. And we understand that that happens over time, and we're hoping that tonight can be the beginning of that path forward, continuing to communicate with the community, continuing to work together to understand how we can best address the needed improvements that are going to be required to accommodate this development. So to begin with our formal presentation, we'll start with an overview of who we are as a company. Our company began operation in 1975. It's still led by its founder and we operate like a family company. Our company went public in 1993 and our shareholders are primarily pensions retirement holders, mutual funds, and most retirement accounts in America that have access to ETFs are probably invested in Sun Communities in some way, shape, or form. I think it's also coincidental to note that one of the largest investors in land lease communities in the country, not one of ours necessarily, is actually the Washington State Investment Board that invests on behalf of all of the public agencies in the state of Washington. Land lease community model provides income sources for retirees across America. We manage over 300 residential communities, and local community stewardship is our core mission. We are service-oriented at the core of our values, and it's important to us that given our long-term investment in our communities, that our relationships with the communities that we partner with are healthy, and again, as we noted, built on trust and transparency. Our communities are 97% occupied nationwide. We receive over 50,000 applications annually to live in our communities, and our average resident tenure is over 15 years, which is longer than the average for most single-family homeowners nationwide. There have been concerns that people that would reside in our communities would not be invested in the same way as other members of the community. But I can tell you that our residents are primarily made up of teachers, nurses, public service employees, retirees, and quite simply, they are the same as the rest of us. Another part of our business and part of the development that we have proposed is recreational resort development and management. We operate over 150 outdoor recreation resorts that include over 50,000 sites. The experience that we hope to offer is rooted in nature, and our mission is to foster connection with family, community, and the environment. These are family outdoor-oriented resorts. We're responsible for land stewardship on environmentally sensitive sites at many of the locations within our portfolio, and we'll highlight some examples of those later as we continue on with our conversation tonight. We can maybe move on to the next slide. Our organization is made up of people. This first slide shows you some of our leadership team at the senior level and a number of the project staff that work here locally consistently, working with the town staff on this project, and will be working to support this organization as we move forward. You can see that a number of the people that are on the slide are actually here with us tonight. More so than us, is the rest of our team. 5,000 people across the country are part of the Sun Communities family and organization. As you can see in this slide here, we have a group of dedicated individuals. We're very fortunate to have the team that works locally in our communities every day, trying to make the experience wonderful for the residents that we have. We can continue. We're also working with local professional groups. Our architects, a company called DLR, they are based in Seattle, and the principal on our project is lives locally here in with ESM consulting engineers on things like traffic and other civil matters. They've worked with the town for a number of years and are trusted by the town staff. Moving on to the uses we've proposed. We are proposing a residential community. We are proposing a multifamily community. We are proposing an outdoor recreation resort. And now that we have consolidated the business parcel back into the overall UGA, we will include plans for the multi-use commercial center as well. The homes that we've proposed in the residential community would be primarily manufactured housing. There are reasons specifically that we choose to use manufactured housing in this community. One is that efficiency is gained in the construction process so that we can provide a more affordable end cost. While people have long-standing concerns about manufactured housing that are primarily rooted on outdated understanding of the Federal Housing Urban Development Code for building standards, the houses that we can produce in a factory are virtually indistinguishable from site-built housing. We have an example here on the page. On the left, you can see a home that was recently sold in Elum Pines for nearly $500,000. On the right is a home that we sold at Lakeside Crossing in one of our communities in Conway, South Carolina. You can see the homes are virtually identical. We have the ability to work with the town to establish architectural standards that can meet the needs of the town and ensure that the rural character of the town is preserved. Our intention is to do just that. The homes that we placed in the community were only examples, meant to give people the opportunity to give us feedback on what they like and don't like, so that as we establish those architectural standards, they meet the needs of the community. Our company employs a land lease model in our residential communities. The reason being primarily is it's a creative method for us to finance the community. As a real estate investment trust, we're statutorily required to generate rent from real property. In order for us to deploy capital and in order for us to meet the needs of our shareholders, we have to employ a model that generates a rental income stream. There are benefits to the residents as well in this model. It reduces the barrier to entry for new home buyers. We can offer homes at substantially less in buy price than a conventional home where they have to pay for not only the land, but the underlying improvements that went into financing that land. It ensures an available source of funds for ongoing community maintenance without the need for tax levies and municipal debt. We take on responsibility for maintaining infrastructure, and we have the resources available to make improvements when they're needed without having to go through the complicated political process of determining when they need to happen and how it's going to be financed. To give an example of how this is preferred by some residents in many communities, we acquired a portfolio of communities in the Northeast, some of which were in New Hampshire, where residents have the right of first refusal to purchase their community back from the original owner. The communities were owned by 3 generations of the developers who actually built the communities. We made a presentation to the residents, and overwhelmingly, over 90% of the residents of the community voted to have Sun Communities acquire the community rather than take it on themselves. It's an extraordinary amount of work for HOA boards. It's an extraordinarily difficult process to take on debt to finance a community. And when community improvements are needed, professional management is needed to make sure those projects are done accordingly. The best example we can give would be a condominium development in the form of a residential neighborhood. There are many forms of home ownership, which include CC&Rs, HOA dues, condominium fees. All of these things are similar in that you're making an additional payment to ensure that your community is maintained to your liking. We can move on. One point I forgot to make while we were talking about manufactured housing, and I apologize to go back, but I believe there may be a misconception that manufactured homes are not taxed in the same manner as real property. While they may be constituted as personal property for classification in the real estate tax rules, they are taxed in the same way that real property is taxed in the state of Washington. They will have an assessed value, and the real estate tax associated with the value of that home will go towards the same tax roll as if they had bought it on a fee simple basis. The land and improvements will have their own value, and that real estate tax bill would go to Sun Communities, and therefore the continuity is just a nuance of the tax bill. There is concern that home values don't appreciate in a manufactured home community. I think it's a myth that people think that land appreciates in value. Land does not appreciate in value. Locations appreciate in value. Homes within our communities have appreciated a rate that is equal to or exceed comparable site-built homes, both locally and nationally, which is a result of Sun's professional management and continued investment in our communities. And we've given examples of the data for one of our communities in Firestone, Colorado, fast-growing suburb outside of Denver, and all of our home resales for the last 5-6 years, showing that the growth in the value of our resale homes is growing consistently with everything else. When you have a wonderful community and you're in a great location, your home will appreciate value. I'd like to move on to some representative projects to give a visualization. Some of the communities that would be more congruent to what we would propose here at 47 North. First is River Run in Granby, Colorado. Granby is a small mountain town, similar to Elum. It's situated just outside the Rocky Mountain National Park. We steward over 1,200 acres surrounding the Colorado River. The improvements necessary to service this eventual 1,500 site community required new roads and traffic improvements. We built a state-of-the-art water treatment facility, which we conveyed to the town, which will service not only our development, but all future development for the town. We had to create an augmentation pumping system that created the ability to draw water off of the Colorado River and feed it back to ensure that irrigation continuity was preserved for all users of water from the Colorado River flowing downstream from our project. The reason that we highlight this is to give you a demonstration that we have experience building the infrastructure necessary for a complex development such as 47 North. To read a quote from the mayor of Granby, Colorado, "Sun has been an excellent partner with the town in every aspect. They've done what they said they'd do and far exceeded our expectations. The town has truly prospered because of Sun's project. They've brought in many new visitors to the area, created quality jobs, added greatly to our tax base, and most importantly, created a destination resort that any community would be proud of. I wholeheartedly recommend Sun Communities." Moving on to a next project. While the community is different, the project had enormous complexity that's congruent to what we have to go through from an environmental protection perspective, similar to SEPA. The project here is called Sun Outdoor San Diego Bay, and it's located on land that we lease from the Port of San Diego, coincidentally. And this is within a California coastal zone, which is notoriously one of the most complicated places to create the kind of environmental stewardship program necessary to build and steward a project in the future. We're adjacent to a national wildlife refuge. We constructed trail networks, public improvements, and we restored wildlife habitats throughout the bayfront. I will quote the project manager from the Port of San Diego. "Sun Communities is a true dedicated development partner. Working with Sun has been professional, and they will become a great partner tenant for years to come in Chula Vista. The project has exceeded expectations as becoming a destination resort in San Diego. Sun is recommended as a tenant and development partner." Lastly, as a representative project, we'll highlight El Capitan Canyon, which is located in Santa Barbara, California. We preserve and maintain over 400 acres of protected conservation land on the property. We have sensitive wildlife habitats. We have a culturally sensitive site to the local Chumash tribe. Across the street and down about 1,000 feet is what's called Point Conception, which is a place where the local Chumash tribe believe the soul met the afterlife. The developer of this project entrusted Sun Communities to make sure that his reputation, his legacy, and the history and future of this site was maintained. Additionally, similar to the previous, we require compliance with approval from the California Coastal Commission and a local comprehensive plan that is similar to the comprehensive plan of the city of Elum. Speaking of the comprehensive plan, our uses are consistent with the comprehensive plan. Speaking specifically to housing and quoting the comprehensive plan, the city of Elum includes a diverse mix of housing types that meets the needs of and are affordable to all segments of its population, especially low-income households. Second, goals: to promote the production of housing affordable for all incomes through a mix of housing types, models, and densities throughout the city, including small lot, single-family detached, zero lot line, duplexes, townhouses, apartments, as well as manufactured housing units that are compatible with the neighborhoods in which they are located. As it relates to the recreation resort component of the proposal, I quote, "Further development of destination tourism is the single most effective strategy available to the community in order to accelerate the process toward a more balanced, sustainable economic base. Recreation development has been the natural market trend for some time in the Upper County. Enhancing that trend is the cornerstone of the city's economic vision." From the focus group and interview results at the time the comprehensive plan was established, Every group cited the area's natural beauty, historic heritage, and outdoor recreation assets as the community's economic future. Some groups describe the area as evolving to a current and future resort community, while others describe it as a recreation-based economy being the obvious and only strategy for sustainability and vitality. To recap, we read this as Elum's community goals are to expand the availability of housing affordable to all incomes with a diverse mix of housing types, and to expand the development of destination tourism that is consistent with the rural character of the community. Our project elements will offer housing options that are attainable to a wide spectrum of incomes. We're able to offer wide price ranges in our manufactured housing community. We're offering multifamily housing, and we have 50 income restricted affordable housing units as part of the proposal as well, which is consistent with the already approved plan for the urban growth area. We will allow for architecture and site design standards that will be harmonious with the surrounding community. We'll provide recreational opportunities for residents and guests based in a rural setting. We'll draw visitors who would enjoy the Era Town theme desired by the community. And we'll maximize retention of natural features, including tree preservation, landscape screening, and additional land conservation. We've taken a LiDAR survey of every tree on the site, and our tree preservation plan will be as comprehensive as any developer could possibly imagine. In terms of impacts and mitigations, the town has made their concerns as it relates to this very clear. We understand, and we want you all to understand that our intention has always been, and we will require to mitigate for all of the impacts of this development. Our final plan will include a comprehensive solution for traffic improvements. This has been ongoing now for years in terms of studies, and the planning that's been happening behind the scenes is happening with the Washington State Department of Transportation and all other regional stakeholders that are involved in the planning process. Improvements will be timed with development of the property, and Sun is required to pay its fair share of costs by statute. Over 6 miles of new public trails are planned throughout the property. They will be open to the public. In terms of public services, we'll provide mitigation plans to ensure the public service agencies have the resources they need to grow and succeed. We'll continue to work with the school to ensure it has the necessary resources to educate new students. Any needed improvements for utility systems will be timed with the development, and Sun's required to pay for any improvements needed to provide services to its users. In addition to this, we're also actively seeking a new grocer for the community, and we met earlier with the County Chamber of Commerce and a first potential partner as well. In terms of open space and recreation, over 250 acres will continue to be preserved and stewarded as open space on the property. We have now secured the parcel adjacent to the horse park, and it will be conserved as open space. Again, I highlight the miles of public trails, new public proposed parks on those trails, and an adventure center proposed that would be open to the public, which is adjacent to the UKCCRC. We've also contributed thus far $2 million to the UKCCRC as required under the current development agreement, and we've taken on the obligation to contribute $2 million more. Our plan will maximize tree preservation, minimize visual impacts, and again, preserve and maintain hundreds of acres of open space accessible to the public. The picture that you see here on the screen is the beginning of a visual model that will help the community to actually see what this is going to look and feel like. As you'll note, there is plenty of tree screening around the property. We will continue to screen the property. We will continue to maintain the natural character of the property, and we'll do everything in our power necessary to preserve trees to the extent practical.
Bill,
Yes.
point out some landscape features there that people know what they're looking at.
Yeah, it's hard to see on the screen here, but the large white line that you see going through the middle of the property is actually the power line easement that currently exists there. Bullfrog Road traverses through it. And some of the parcels that are closest to the highway are actually where the community center will go, and eventually the public adventure center as well. To the right, you can see all the way to the right is the open space and river corridor. That entire area will continue to be preserved as open space. And you can see throughout the community, we'll do everything we can to preserve trees to maintain the natural character of the property throughout. terms of next steps, we have to finalize traffic and other mitigation plans. This will continue to take time. Once we have a better understanding of exactly how that will work, we'll host community workshops so that everybody understands exactly what's being proposed. From there, we will resubmit a complete application, taking into consideration the feedback from the community. We'll review these plans with the hearings examiner. That plan will then come to the city council, which will probably be presented in a series of meetings. And again, the timing will depend on the needs and the availability of the third parties through the traffic planning and the mitigation planning process. We plan to be very patient to ensure that the plans that we provide are comprehensive and meet the needs of the community. Lastly, we want to reinforce our appreciation for the openness of many members of the community in helping us to work toward a solution to bring intelligent growth to the community, meeting the needs as required under the Growth Management Act, city's ordinances, and the community's requirements as a whole. Love to open the floor to any questions you may have.
And I appreciate your presentation. You want to read it?
Okay. Appreciate your presentation, and I appreciate you all coming here face to face. And I appreciate you paying attention to very important issues, and the details really matter.
Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you. Yeah.
What do you guys
Really recognize, you opened it up to.
Okay.
Video, was he inviting questions from the council or?
As a matter of procedure, I would think it's just to the council, but Mayor, I defer to you as to how you'd like to handle it.
I didn't hear that.
I said, I think as a matter of procedure, I would defer to the mayor to say whether or not, yeah.
We're making quick.
Well, Mr. Mayor, if you're okay with quick comments from anyone, that's what we're here for.
Okay, let's give it a shot. It's already gonna be 8:30 pretty soon, but let's make it quick.
And quick comments, and maybe a little break. There's still a lot of agenda left.
All right, after this presentation. All right. So I see someone
Here, would you tell us your name and where you're from?
Hi, my name is Ingrid Wild, and I'm from the Leon area. I am a hospital district commissioner.
we need to
And
have them share their phone so that the viewers can hear all this.
I'm hearing it clear.
Okay. Somewhere. Just check. Go ahead.
City hospital district commissioner, recently appointed. And I haven't heard any conversation about EMS, fire, natural resources, and mitigation for those impacts. So I would be very interested in additional conversations, hearing what it is that you propose, what you've done in other communities and how you address that. I think we have a very special, unique situation here. Unlike you mentioned, I've traveled all the cities that we've talked about having built communities, but ours is very unique due to the remoteness and the lack of hospital healthcare services and all the burdens that COVID-19 has already placed on our small community. So up until a few years ago, we were barely balancing the sheets in all these categories, but now I think if you talk to the stakeholders that represented the specific utilities, you would see that things have changed dramatically in the 2 years since COVID-19 impacted our community. And I'd like to know how you understand the impact of COVID as they relate specifically to our community.
So in the interest of keeping this high level with the city council tonight, when we address the concept of public services, we consider EMS, fire, police, et cetera, to all be part of that comprehensive set of services that could potentially be impacted that we need to mitigate for. And your concern is noted. And as we continue through to public workshops, once a mitigation plan has been determined, that will certainly be addressed. And for what it's worth, we have had a preliminary meeting with the hospital district. Yes.
There's questions on, there's a chair in your way. Sorry, I can't see. Go ahead.
Barbara Brunner, 60 Russell Road. I haven't heard you mention anything about RV parking as opposed to coming with this zone.
So the outdoor recreation resort will include spaces for recreational vehicles. It will include cabins. It will include potentially innovative solutions like tree houses and other what we call glamping accommodations. But naturally, RVs are part of an outdoor recreation resort, and that would be part of this as well. The total number of sites proposed is roughly 680. Spencer, does that sound about right? Yeah. And that would include recreational vehicle sites, cabins, and the glamping sites, all total.
Okay. There's somebody right. Let's see that. The hand. That's
Mayor.
What I'm hearing here, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
31 Maple Lane, Ronald, Washington. I've been spending time in Clallam for about 40 years. I've owned a home up there for 22 years. And what I hear from this presentation is this is about generating revenue and forcing the area to grow. And I do not think that is what most of the people who either live or reside or recreate in this area want that to do. It sounds like, to me, this is about generating revenue. All these strategies involve collecting revenue. And when you collect revenue, it's about spending as little as possible to drive the results for the stockholders. That's what this is about. And there's an awful lot of fluff here that's going on.
I appreciate comments and commentator at present. We're asking questions, and we certainly want to recognize
I appreciate the comment. If you have a question for the presenter, please tell us what that is. Okay?
I'm having a hard time hearing you.
What I asked is ask a question for the presenter.
Is the mission to make money here?
What I that is to approve investment to be viable, generate profit with many of our stakeholders, with our shareholders, that provide the capital.
Naturally, for an investment to be viable, we'll have to generate a profit as one of our stakeholders, as our shareholders that provide the capital to develop for many. And we do our best to balance all the stakeholder interests that we have, our residents, our guests, communities that we work within, and that of our shareholders. And their expectations of us are generally very fair.
We work with a select group of manufacturers that do nothing but manufacturing.
No, we work with a select group of manufacturers that do nothing but manufacture homes. We're happy to let them do that for us.
So that sound we just heard was delayed
in his presentation. Thank you.
Question.
Oh.
You see who it is?
No.
Hello, I have a question.
Patricia Garris.
Go ahead, Patricia. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Patricia Garris, and I live in South Clallam. I'm a 5th generation person of the community. My grandparents lived on Nelson Siding and were farmers. Other members of my family also worked the railroad. So here's my question. I have a couple actually for the presenter. The tax structure that you are presenting, where the land is all owned by Sun communities, but the homes are owned by the individuals, will the community itself receive the same amount of taxes to pay for things like the fire, police, schools, those sorts of things, as if they were individual home plots?
Land and the improvements will all be assessed. The tax bill will just be split, partially coming from Sun communities, partially coming from the
Okay, my next question is the water usage for the community. We have a complicated water usage structure. We also have rights, native rights to the tribes, and they have first water rights. How do you plan to mitigate that when we're already close to being within the water rights issue and the capacity of what we should be using? How do you plan to solve for that?
There's a little feedback. Does that work? Okay. We have secured all the water rights necessary to service the community. In regards to the improvements needed to the system, there is an additional reservoir tank required. We have secured the easement for its location and the tank has been engineered.
For 650 homes that use about, I mean, at a minimum of 2,000 gallons, and isn't that going to be quite a tank?
Water rights and sewer capacity are in place.
And my last question is about your RV park of 680 people, or sites, excuse me. How many people do you plan to have introduced into our community, which includes going through the forest and the damage it does to the roots, to the trees, because they're going to carve their little names in the trees. They're going to leave their trash. They're going to leave their waste in places that it doesn't belong. How do you plan to mitigate for the fact that those trees are going to start falling over like they do in our park up at the other end of Samuelsack?
So we've had a preliminary meeting with the Kittitas Conservation Trust to talk about our obligations within the existing conservation easement. We are required to maintain the area to start. The recommendation of the Conservation Trust is that as we design our trail net, we do so in a manner that identifies areas that are specifically for where the humans are supposed to be going and areas specifically where the wildlife is supposed to be going. And so by designing intelligently throughout those areas, we will try to create areas that are most apt for human use while identifying the areas that allow everybody to use the area most harmoniously. The idea that it's a recreation resort gives us the resources necessary to have staff in place that can actually do a good job to take care of that area.
That's a lot of employees to manage a recreational site with a lot of trails and back trails. Amongst that, there's also going to be wildlife.
We appreciate your comments. That's what we want with questions. Now we're going into comments. And we need to move on to some other participants. Thank you.
No problem.
There is some things in the chat. You want to talk about those, Matthew, or?
Sure. So this one is the property is leased by the mobile homeowners. How long is the typical lease?
Typical lease is 12 months, but that's a renewal feature that continues on.
And then do you want to scroll down there? So the next one is outside of infrastructure within the resort. Does anyone know if new talks have been had about direct access to and from the resort from I-90 instead of via Elum or Bogart Road to prevent?
The lease is 12 months.
Other communities rely on these roads. And,
Can I answer?
So that's a relatively technical question, and I would say that all of these items are being studied in detail by a host of traffic engineers, and when a final plan has been established that everybody agrees on, it'll be.
Next one is how many home sites and how many RV sites?
It's a total of 1,384 sites, which is consistent with the density already approved on the property. Roughly half of that will be residential, and half of that, a little more than half of that will be residential, and half of that will be in the recreation resort.
Got it. We already answered that question. We already answered that. I'm sorry.
Can I answer? Can I add
The
something?
land for the trailer sites is to be leased. How long is the typical lease? We already answered how long the typical lease was, didn't we? Okay.
Can you guys hear me?
People don't lease the RV sites, right? That's okay. How many people will live there or visit?
Where's there?
I don't have the exact statistics. It'll be part of an updated SCIS as we continue to progress through the planning process.
No, just say we spoke.
Again, I don't have that number off the top of my head, but it will be estimated through that an updated SCIS that will be part of the next application.
Okay, we'll interrupt the chat room, and there's the person in the audience here wishes to ask a question.
We're not proposing any limitations necessarily. Typically, people who come to recreation resort will stay for 4 days, 7 days, a couple weeks. We would not allow people to establish residency in the community now. That would not be our intention. Sure, some people like to stay seasonally in a recreation community, and we encourage that.
Is the lease price frozen for the home sites?
No, typically it increases at a rate that's comparable to inflation. We've been doing this now since 1975, and we generally live around 3 to 4% per year lease increases.
I think he answered the jobs. How many jobs are
Most of
estimated?
that back into the community in the form of improvements.
Yeah.
Well, there's one there. How many employees? Can't tell.
Yeah. Because the homes are manufactured off-site, how many local county people do you plan to hire, and can you guarantee a local hiring policy?
One of the reasons generally a lack of trade.
These are things we'll address in the planning process. One of the reasons we have to use manufactured homes, frankly, in order to create an affordable price point is there's generally a lack of trades available to build homes at an affordable rate. Our meeting earlier with the Kittitas County Chamber of Commerce.
We ready to move on?
Brought this back up, and they certainly concur. There simply aren't enough tradespeople to build enough homes to solve the affordable housing crisis. And this is actually a method for bringing homes into the community that help solve that problem.
So we'll hold workshops, once we have some kind of plan, we'll understand exactly how that happens.
Okay, one last question.
When I rent the land for my home that's been on, what is the cost of that land and water years?
Please.
So we'll address this, will be funded, will be addressed in that plan that will help you guys to understand exactly how that.
Okay. When I rent the land for 5 years, is the cost at 20% over a 10-year period?
Yes, the lease price will typically go up a little bit every year. Or, as I mentioned, we have again, portfolio wide, typically lived in the 3 to 5, 3 to 4, 3 to 5 for the increase amount. And again, we reinvest a portion of those rent increases back into the community.
Behind the chair.
Similar to how.
That's easy. Go ahead.
Yes, sir.
I've been here 26 years. I've been here 26 property here. Community goal and development of destination tourism. This is where growth character in the community.
Yes, sir.
I've been seeing this happen for 26 years. And this rapid development, housing development, years, Arcadia came in.
So do you want to ask a question? Ask a question.
Okay. How does it make this rural character of the community, moving this many homes to people in? Does that save the rural character?
So, full crop by parcel is urban growth area. The property is already been earmarked for development. It has an approved development for 180 full sites. In the state of Washington, there is a regulatory regime called growth management. It requires communities to plan for growth. They're not causing so in order for the community to plan, they identify areas where there's growth.
Bullfrog Flats parcel, urban growth area. The property has already been earmarked for development.
Actually, established 120 years ago. So we're not supposed to change
It has an development for 1,384 sites. In the state of Washington, there is a regulatory regime called growth management.
Yes,
Requires
the
communities plan.
urban growth area
As inevitable. We're not
was
causing the growth. The growth is
annexed
coming.
in
So in order
about
for the communities to
2003.
responsibly plan,
So,
establish more than
yeah,
20
we're
years.
talking 20
So we're
years.
not
That
proposing
issue's been
changing
settled.
that this should or should not be developed. We're proposing what will be developed in a manner that we believe is
Okay.
consistent with the plan of the community.
I think we call this presentation to an end. I appreciate your time. And I appreciate everybody's
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council.
questions and
Thank you, everyone.
patience for us to get this rolling. We're going to take a break, and I'll think about how long, because we have, I don't know, about 5 different issues that the city has to deal with that's on our agenda. And we'll take a break. How much time?
5 minutes?
Oh, no.
10 minutes?
10 minutes. We're going to come back here at 8:45, right?
8:45.
8:45.
Everything back on. Maybe get the gavel. What do we bring your gavel for?
Yeah, what are you doing?
It's the city federal. Okay, I've got the sound back on, the video back on. Still being recorded.
Okay.
FYI.
So let's see, who's over there? Bill, why don't you guys move over that way a little bit, and we're going to start our meeting again. Okay, where are we?
We are at unfinished business.
Okay, we're going to go to unfinished business, and the first person up is Greg Horn, and he's going to give us an overview of the request to transfer the rights, responsibilities, and obligations of Bullfrog UGA Development Agreement to Sun Community. Was that online? Did people hear that?
Yeah, or unmuted. Yep.
There was no echo. What happened?
the volume's down.
Okay, take it away, Greg.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council, Mayor, if we do a check, Rob, make sure I'm heard. Stephen, you can hear it, right? Okay, great. So thank you. This is a continuation of an item that was on your agenda last meeting in December, which was mid-December, and Councilmember Lackley declares to me that it might be appropriate sometime in
Thank you, Mayor, members of City Council.
To go over
Mayor, can we
both
do
of the
a
large scale
sound
development
check or Rob to make sure I'm being heard online?
Tonight, and there's another project, City Heights, that is subject to development.
Okay, great. Super, thank you.
There's going to be a number of
This is a continuation of an item that was on your agenda last meeting in December, which was mid-December, and Councilmember Lackey, it occurs to me that it might be appropriate at some time in the near future to schedule a briefing in City Heights that is subject to a development agreement. So it might be helpful at some point to schedule a briefing because there's going to be a number of items. So that might be held at the time and the length of the agenda to try to keep no action is required, but I do want to report previous meeting. And once again, earlier, Sun Community is
not just the portions that were previously discussed, but also the portion that
has acquired all of the property that is subject to the both
they own now all of the land, and under the development agreement, Media has the ability to sell the land.
Just the portions that were previous portions that New Suncadia had originally, so they own now all of the land. New Suncadia has the ability to subdivide its consent to the transfer of the rights
to
responsibilities and obligations under that development agreement, Sun Community. So effectively, New Suncadia and then have those recent rights and obligations be assumed by process to review and give consent. You may recall that there was a similar request made of the county commissioners this past summer when New Suncadia took on a new development partner with respect to the resort. So it's a similar process to that. When you last met, there was a couple of items that particularly we discussed. One was the timing and a concern with the holidays that it would not provide adequate time to review.
And there was an agreement among the parties that the request would start on January 3rd, which was the first business day in January. So 45 days from the beginning of January. So the clock wasn't running over the Christmas holiday. So that concern that you had expressed has been addressed. We did, however, over the holidays, send a letter out to the various public agencies that could be affected by the conditions of approval.
And there was an agreement among the parties that the request.
So those letters went out over the holidays and
start on January 3rd, days from the beginning of January, the Christmas holidays. So that concerned the holidays. So those letters went out over the holidays, and the city at this point has received a letter back from Kitcom, a letter from South Elum saying that they had no option, and at your next meeting that said they have received. So tonight it was an opportunity to give you an update and for any questions or discussions you might want, but there's nothing scheduled in terms of action. We would do that and schedule that at your next meeting in February. So I will defer to any questions you might have, but like I say, I'm going to try to keep things brief tonight if I can.
Okay, thank you for that. Now you have another.
Mayor, is there no questions from the council then?
So the clock is pretty much going to be out at our next meeting, so we have to take action. There's no extra
additional meetings and things like we did with a year or so ago.
So the 45 days from January 3rd is January 48th.
Also known as the middle of February.
Right.
Which is, well, what I mean is, which is when our next meeting is, the 14th.
It's actual additional meetings.
How much after
and
Days
things
after
like
14.
Well, 48 minus 31
a
is
year or so ago.
15.
with,
So it's the day after.
News and Key.
Our next
So I guess
meeting.
that's what I mean is we're putting it, so we have to take action.
We have to take action.
Buffer that. I don't know if this is gonna be controversial, but that seems like we're kind of putting ourselves up against a really hard deadline.
I would think that it was the next meeting.
Also known as the middle of February.
If something came up,
Yeah, it's after that date.
Okay.
Thank you.
okay.
Yeah, and I would think that if it that.
Overview of the process of the transfer of rights. The next, we're under B, which is ordinance 1621, adopting amendments to the Elum Municipal Code Development Regulation. Greg, you're on the spot.
And Mayor, this is also a continuation of an item from your meeting in December. So once again, Councilmember, my apologies for jumping into the details of a discussion that occurred prior to you joining the council. I thought Larry Stafford did a good job. Good job.
Larry said, and the council was so
Greg.
inclined to add a provision,
quite frankly, I don't have any disagreements with what Larry said. And the council was so inclined to add a provision to what goes into a notice of application. The state law does say that the notice of application shall include the criteria that will be used to determine.
Okay, Alex, can you hear me now?
Kind of.
Proposed project is consistent. It goes on to say, if known.
It's really hard to hear you guys. There's like two voices going on at the same time. I think we need to try a different microphone.
Let me, Mike and Rob, what do you think's going on? Hang on.
Okay, so Alex, can you hear me now? You have to turn that on.
And see whether or not you can hear just one voice. Can you hear me at all?
A little bit.
So let's talking over.
She's not hearing.
The problem is that Greg's voice is being picked up by two different microphones. There's a lag in between every single word he says between the two microphones, therefore it's undiscernible. So it needs to have one mic only.
Try this again and see whether or not you can hear this one voice.
Alex, can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear Greg?
This is a first. My voice hasn't been heard.
I think that that's better. It's not the two Gregs at once.
Right. Alex, how's that?
That's
Is
better.
Is there a better? Boy. Okay. Okay. So, Mayor and members of the council, just to restate, spoke to this issue, and I think he raised a number of good points and made good comments. And in fact, in his comments, he said, Greg will say this and Greg will say that. I do not disagree. If it is an addition, prescribe what should go in a notice of application. And the law does say to provide the criteria that will be used to determine if an application is consistent, if known. If frequently is known, but not always, because there may be an ass weighted. You don't realize that's the case. To add language that says also if the preliminary determination, if known, would not be inappropriate. The only thing I would say, based on my 42, 3, 4 years of experience as a professional planner, is that I have found that it is very important to keep an open mind, to not rush to judgment. And when you have an application and you have a limited number of days to review it, you want to be very careful about reaching conclusions until you've had a chance to thoroughly evaluate the application and to listen to public comments. So we're just, and there's a preliminary determination, certainly can share it, but may not always be able to do that. And we'll want to exercise a degree of caution so that we don't overreact, and listen to the comments that have been shared, and also not rush to judgment about applications, because you have to spend some time and really dig into the details and the weeds, and sometimes they're not always, what it made out to be. So with those caveats, I think, that the suggestion is appropriate, and council, if you're so inclined, I would be happy to work to bring some language back that makes that further addition. And I think under the circumstances, it might be an appropriate thing to do. Also, just want to remind the council that in the future, as we go forward, that this is the notice of application. And it's one of two significant opportunities to comment, keeping in mind that after the evaluation occurs, then there is a consistency determination, and it is in writing, and it has to spell out not only what the determination, that written statement is vetted by the city management team, by the city attorney, it is mailed to the public, and there will be an opportunity for the public to read the analysis and comment on it, and then to further comment to the city hearings examiner, who in effect will be rendering a second all the work and analysis that goes on. So that you received earlier tonight would be appropriate.
Council, what do you think? Should he rewrite it and read that? With those annotations that you mentioned, I think they would be. So there's a motion on the table to rewrite the ordinance because revise. I don't think it's a total rewrite.
Yeah, to insert
to insert
this,
these comments
the Stafford amendment
in the appropriate place, and bring it back in a written form to the council. Is that that's the motion?
Yes.
So I see, is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded to include the comments in the development agreement or in the document for us, which is the, hang on. a minute.
Ordinance 1621.
There's other,
So seconded, just for
discussion. All right, let's go
so
for
there's
this.
clear intent.
Yes. And there, yeah, first.
Might it be appropriate for Larry and Greg to sit down and have a 5-minute conversation? Make sure they're on the same page. Make sure they're on the same page.
What do you guys?
I'm not saying in our presence, I'm just recommending.
That when these comments are being included, that
Like here, because we're intro conversation, have Greg do his work, have a quick, after the fact, talk about it. That way we're not in a lot of back and forth.
Yeah, because we don't need the
It
back and
doesn't
forth
speak
here.
exclusively for council, but in this matter, I believe, certainly appreciate his leadership.
Okay, that's what we'll do. So there's an opportunity for comment later, Larry. So council, what else? That's all right, leave it later. Okay, come on, really. Is there a second to that motion?
10 seconds.
10 seconded. Any other questions on the motion? If not, all in favor with aye?
Aye.
Matt, are you still with us?
Say that again, sorry.
Beth, are you still with us?
That's a no. That's just on the list.
You're muted. Yeah.
Okay, those opposed? Hearing none, the motion is passed to make this revision.
So I have more on this
Yes?
particular topic. We just made a motion, so I was gonna let that finish. But I appreciate Greg's comment in here about establishing a minimum number of city residents on the planning commission.
Yeah.
And I think we should determine that before we pass this.
Oh.
I believe that we should probably, I would say at least 50% should reside within the city limits, but I don't know. I think we should have a discussion on that.
Oh, yeah.
Current number, there isn't one. You just have to live within the 99.
The planning commission.
I think it varies. So right now, the chair is.
Okay.
Matt lives in the city.
No, I'm just saying if there's, what's the total number of people? If it's an odd number, then we just have to say, maybe we might propose that it be a majority of.
So yeah, so currently there's 5 members and 1 alternate, and we're proposing 5 members and 2 alternates. So there would be
Alternates, okay, and they can do the thing, the 5. So then the majority of the 5 need to be Clallam city residents. Simple enough.
I would move to that effect.
Not including, we're not going to kick anybody off right now, but
no,
from here forward. Okay, just want to make sure from here forward. Okay.
So I would motion to that effect that the majority of the planning commission, that when this is drafted also.
Yes.
That the majority of the body be Clallam residents.
Okay, there's a motion for that. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded to have the majority of the planning commission be Elum city residents of the planning commission members. Is that clear?
Exception for what it is now.
Well, as we progress, as we're going forward, that is what we're going to go.
Yeah, we don't fire.
Right.
No. Okay, any other questions on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor with aye?
Aye.
I guess we haven't heard from, oh, Beth, there is Beth, there's Beth. Beth, did you hear that?
Yeah.
Yes. She's having technical issues. Let's face it.
Oh, there you go. She's unmuted.
Beth, were you able to hear that motion and the vote?
No, she hasn't heard a thing. Neither has any.
Steve's on.
Nope, she just said something. Is the volume on the volume on the TV? Oh, it is. Of course, I can hear myself. Put it in the chat, Beth.
So let's be patient here. We want to include her.
Yeah.
She obviously isn't hearing you.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Can you send her a chat?
I just sent her a message.
She's speaking now.
Oh.
Her mic is on. Hang on. We'll move on. We're gonna try just a little bit to create some contact. She's speaking. You can see that.
Right. She didn't respond to either chat. Oh wait, she says I can hear fine, but there's a lag. She said yay. Okay.
Let's move that camera so you can see more of us. Let's move the camera.
Hey, Greg, because Greg's talking.
Okay. Then I'm asking, are any of those opposed? Hearing none, the motion is passed to change the, yep, no, it's absolutely fine. Greg, are you still, got something to say to us? No.
Thanks, Greg.
Thank you. Let's see it. Okay, next is the interlocal agreement with the city of Roslyn. Ed Mills was going to walk us through that. Ed, are you still online?
Yes, I am, Honorable Mayor. So this we approached quite a while ago, but Roslyn decided to take this to their attorney. There were some word changes. So we wanted to bring it back up to council just to allow you guys to take a look at it. I've reviewed it quite extensively. I outlined the words that changed in the document. They really didn't change any meaning to the document other than clarifying a few words. With Roslyn signing the new agreement as it's wrote, their mayor and chief has signed it. So I wanted to readdress the issue and have council advise mayor and myself to accept the agreement as they have had it changed. So I believe this is all in your packet. Is there any questions on or any concerns with any of the verbiage change?
So what he's asking is he's bringing you up to date on the back and forth that went between Roslyn, the attorney and ours. And he's asking for your.
So Alex has looked at it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
The mayor and attorney are good with it.
Agreed. I would motion that we authorize the mayor to sign the interlocal agreement for automatic aid between the city of Clallam and the city of Roslyn.
Second.
Moved and seconded to authorize the mayor to sign the interlocal agreement for automatic aid between the city of Cleveland, and the city of Roslyn.
I should have said mayor and fire. Looks like the fire
Yes,
chief has to
Mayor
sign it too.
Yes.
Okay.
Questions on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor with aye.
Aye.
That? But there's a delay, right? So she's still listening to us. Oh. She can hear us fine. Is it that long a delay?
Apparently.
Take a vote. Do you guys, everybody vote on it? Yeah. We all voted. It's gotten so long. I forget. She must not have heard.
All right, hang on.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay, I think I got it fixed for now. And I can hear you fine.
Okay, for those opposed? Hearing none, the interlocal agreement will be signed. Thank you. Okay, next, well, Mike, maybe you give us a little update on what was behind the emergency proclamation of the sewer main collapse. We sort of covered it already in your presentation.
We missed the EMS interlocal agreement.
Oh, Ed, sorry, you're still on. Are you there?
Yes, I'm still here. So the other interlocal is actually something that's a budgeted line item. Rob asked me to kind of explain it a little bit. This is the EMS trauma, and this is services that we pay for EMS. It's part of our county development. So last year, the budgeted line was 7,301. We proposed that it was going to go up, but we only put into the budget for 8,600. They wanted to wait, and the reason that they waited was this goes off from a direct census of the population of the areas depicted. So as you're looking at this chart, it breaks it down. Kidtass County is 45.4%. City Ellensburg's 43.2%. You know, it is directly related to just population. We went up an increase of 4.9% with population. This took us up to a percentage of the bill of 9,803. So an increase of $2,203. So I hope that explains this to you guys, and I'll pass it off to the mayor.
The population changes that weren't available until later. They're able to, by population, come up with the new allocation that we pay.
I would move that we authorize the mayor to sign the Kidderminster County Emergency Medical Services and Trauma Care Council and interlocal cooperation agreement for participating jurisdiction.
Second.
Moved and seconded to authorize the mayor to sign the interlocal agreement with the EMS council, right?
And I would ask for a second to this amendment that authorize the mayor and city administrator.
Second.
Second. Okay. Questions on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor with aye? Aye.
Aye.
Ah, okay, are those opposed? Hearing none, the interlocal agreement will be signed. If it's framed. Okay, so now, Mike, give us a quick overview of the whys and wherefores of the sewer collapse. You've already kind of mentioned it, but go ahead anyways.
Mayor, we obviously knew about potential sewer issues citywide, and they're finally starting to show their age. And it started with the Billings sewer main from Railroad to Second Street. It collapsed under First Street, and we're assuming that with the elevation, the depth of the pipe, it being an old clay tile pipe, and with all the traffic and heavy truck traffic down First Street, that the vibration, Mother Nature finally had its way with it, and so that sewer main actually collapsed to the point where the motel, the gas station, Cliff's Garage, and Talarico's Salon, their sewer was backing up on a regular basis, and it was actually coming out of the manhole. So we basically had no choice but to replace that, and in the interim, my team was out daily, as Ben stated earlier, backing out sewage and taking it to the sewage plant to try to keep everyone in business. So we're asking for you guys to understand the emergency proclamation and why that took place.
And so the reason why we have an emergency proclamation is that we can hire a contractor to do the work without having to go. So that was.
Which is the only way to respond quickly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's pretty big.
Yeah, so that one might take it. So then this leads into the next one. Because of the storm event and our fears of a rain on snow, we had proclaimed an emergency for that, which was pretty involved, and as a result, we're able to hire the construction outfit that was going to do sewer, was sitting there on Railroad, waiting to go to work, couldn't go to work, and we hired them to help with snow removal. Now that one turned out to be
Pretty involved for sure. And, we set up a command center at the firehouse and with the staff members and the fire department, and set up at that same time an interactive spreadsheet for complaints or needs from people that went from City Hall and the fire department. They could see it at the same time, so that we could, refer to people's problems. And I would say though that, we did send you out kind of an overview as an email. I don't know if I want to go through that, but we did put a list of what happened good and what didn't happen good. I should share that with you. But I would say because of that, we realized a lot of things that were shortcomings that the city had with internet, with communication, with ourselves and the council. You guys really weren't brought up to date. And I would say the most important thing of it is that we've learned that how we deal with snow in the city on a regular basis needs to change. And that's what we'll be working on, for one thing. And the big difference between a snow event, although this was a record one, than what we've had before. A lot of people don't remember that the First Street used to be a swimming pool after a storm rain. You couldn't walk off the curb without getting it. We now have a storm drain system that we rent all the way up the Billings. And so getting those storm drains cleared was our priority. And so again, we have a lot of discussion to do about how we deal with snow on First Street and snow within the town. Because there's dozens of people who have different strategies to deal with the snow. And I have a list of things that City Hall needs to do, the Public Works need to do, Police Department. But the reason for the proclamation, we were worried about a rain on snow event, which we had in '09, which flooded. And that was the base of it. But I'd open up to questions. I'm not really getting too elaborate with my explanation. Ken?
I'm just thinking, Ben, we're going to be doing bulb outs, and I can anticipate impact of snowplow blades with a dump truck smashing those bulb out curves. Can they take it?
Certainly the curves aren't designed for that kind of thing.
Then
Even with sewer enforcement, I think we really struggle with small.
yeah, and that's what I've seen. When they've done that at Safeway, they just last a few years. And yeah, we've got to really think this through, because we get a lot of snow and the guy running that machine, he doesn't see a curb sticking out, and so they're going to get clobbered unless we consciously do something different. And a blade way out in front of a machine is different than like a tractor pulling a blade behind it or something like that. I mean, there's different ways.
Snow blowers.
Snow, anyway, everybody has more ideas, and I don't have a better idea than anybody else. Okay, it's the guys that are doing it, but I hate to invest money into bulb outs and see them destroyed.
Well, it won't just be bulb outs. We
And
have
other things,
planters and things of
Oh,
that.
yeah, and they'll be.
So so there has to be definitely a plan to reserve. It's a huge investment.
Right.
And our way we deal with snow is going to have to change. We have to bring a new strategy. And it was especially evident in this situation today.
Probably those front end bucket loaders are more maneuverable.
And they can put a snow blower in the front of the front end loader.
Oh, whatever. I mean,
So but of
lots
course,
things, but
it's cost money, first of all.
But yeah,
Yeah, this discussion is probably outside of the specialty of this council.
except that we are approving major investments.
No.
Yes.
And
If we don't change.
That's where my comments.
But
are
let
at
him
now.
say what he's got to say. Let him say what he's got to say.
We
Yeah.
do- The state contemplates, and I would imagine our city code contemplates the emergency proclamations.
Yeah.
At the same time, it has ordinances that contemplate a finance committee, which is not the budget committee. And we need to look very closely at that ordinance and how it was followed and how this is going to play out in the future.
Yeah, we
a
can't
day
do
by-
this every year.
A day by day, play by play, specific communication with the finance committee. And maybe there needs to be a snow committee or a utility committee, but ultimately, the administration as a whole cannot be given a blank check whenever there's an emergency. And that's my concern at the moment that we talk about it. I think that this emergency was dealt with, and the end result was what we wanted, with the exception of the inefficiency of how it was spent, which maybe could not have been foreseen, but any future events can certainly be, we have to learn from this event. And so I don't know if we need to, I don't know if the committee, if the council wants to form a committee or whatever, but I know that these costs are going to be referred to the budget committee. And then the budget committee is going to have to figure out how ultimately to pay for them. I do think that we should look and see if the ordinances concerning the finance committee were followed, and in the future, how do we make sure that those are followed? Because they're put in there in place to make sure that in the event of an emergency, we can be responsive. We don't have to wait for councilmatic action, but at the same time, that we're not snowballing literally, you know, with this expenditures.
I looked, because I was trying to figure out the difference between a state of emergency, which we have to approve or, you know, once the mayor does it, and then an emergency proclamation. I saw a lot of other cities that have like a, you know, within 72 hours or 5 days that the council does meet and talk about them. And honestly, I don't think it's hard to get us together after something pretty major where it's like we spent, what, $330,000, that we should be able to get together and have that conversation, because I agree with you that otherwise it sort of gives a blank check that we have to then figure out how to fix later. So I would be in favor of trying to come up with some sort of ordinance that further clarifies how we handle these emergency proclamations having to do with the council afterwards.
And so I think that's a conversation that we at present refer to the budget committee, and then they're gonna give a recommendation to the council. And then if that means the recommendation of we need to draft other ordinances or we need to put in triggers in place, I'm trusting that the budget committee will have a good recommendation on that.
Yeah. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. I agree. Okay, next, the ordinance, D has been removed, E, and this is, okay, Ben, interlocal agreement, Cleveland, Kittitas County, First Street Downtown Revitalization. Oh, man.
Thank you. First item E is the interlocal agreement between Cleveland and Kittitas County for certified.
Sorry. Start over. The first item is the interlocal agreement between the city of Elum and Kittitas County for certified acceptance services. So every time that there's Federal Highway Administration grant dollars in a capital project, there's a CA requirement, which is essentially a third-party oversight that the city's doing their job, that the consultant's doing their job, and that federal guidelines are being followed. And so this is an agreement between the city and Kittitas County. This is nearly identical to the 3 ILAs you already have with the county for CA services, but it is project by project specific. So any questions on the ILA with Kittitas County?
Second.
Moved and seconded to authorize the mayor to sign the interlocal agreement between Cleveland and Kittitas County. Questions on the motion?
Yeah. Can we have a for instance? Where this comes into play?
I can't quite hear you.
He wants, could he have a for instance where this comes into play?
For instance, when this comes into play, you bet. So actually the third item here, item G, is an instance where this comes into play. So anytime the city actually hires a consultant to do the project, there's a process that you've got to go through. The CA affirms that you've gone through, reviews that process, gets a hold of city staff. How did you select your consultant? What process did you go through? What criteria were used for evaluation? That's one prime example that every time there's a consultant agreement, the CA is involved. Whenever we open bids and we recommend low bid to the council for approval on a construction award, before we do that, it always goes to the CA for review and approval. They are involved throughout the process from consultant inception all the way to project closeout.
Could this compromise the city's position in dealing with the county?
I can't think of an opportunity that it would.
You've done this before.
Yeah, every Federal Highway Administration project that the city has done, you've contracted with Kittitas County. I can't think of a time though where there's been an issue.
Okay. Any other questions on the motion? Not all in favor, with aye.
Aye.
That's denied. Opposed, hearing none opposed. The interlocal agreement will be signed between Cleveland and Kittitas County. Next, Ben is going to walk us through task order 2021 -06, amendment number 1, First Street Downtown Revitalization.
Great, thank you, Mayor. So the first task order, number 2021-06, was for the downtown revitalization phase 3A. And if we think back to that vicinity map from a few hours ago on the capital projects for this coming year, at that time, there was one grant award in place, and that was for phase 3A. Since there's been 2 additional grants secured to expand the limits of that project, now it's deemed phases 3A and 3B, and is a much larger project. That said, there is a cost to repackage that project. It was part of the funding application, so it's at no expense to the city. It's part of the grant, and that's what's involved with the design of this task order addendum. And there's also a construction services component for the construction administration, the inspection, project funding administration, close out of all the grants, close out of the construction contracts, and all that's involved with administering construction projects. And so this essentially expands on the task order that was already approved for that initial phase 3A. Entertain any questions on this task order addendum. That is a good question. Tentatively looking to go to bid late spring, which would be summer construction. There are some items in the contract, specifically with Puget Sound Energy, that we're still working through the details on the street lighting that need to be in place prior to funding authorization by the Federal Highway Administration.
So if everything goes good, it's bid this spring.
Correct.
And did I hear you say that if we get the low bid from the capital budget, that we would go out and try to get somebody to do essentially all of that at once, including that extra 500,000? That's the idea, is we would go to bid after session, assuming we get money on capital budget.
Yep. No, great question, Matt. That's exactly spot on. There is about a $450,000 gap right now in funding. A lot of times you can always say, you know, the more competitive a project is with economy of scale, peak contractor interest, but you're not going to shave off $400,000 worth. And so if you were to get that capital budget awarded, that would be, yeah, it would make the project whole, and that would be part of this one as well. Good question. Say that again, Ken. Oh, okay. So anytime that there's a consultant agreement, a construction contract agreement, the state auditors have advised Robin that no matter the agreement, you need to have a debarment check as part of your agreement, and anytime in agreement. And we used to just do checks on ourselves and keep them on file, but that wasn't good enough for the state auditor. The city has to have them on file as well. And short of Robin having to pull a check for everybody, we do that so she doesn't have to, and include it in the agreement. Yes, sir. Wouldn't be standing here today if we weren't.
Showing zero.
So I would move that we approve task order 2021-06 addendum 1.
Oh, I keep forgetting. Kathy, there was a motion by Matthew Lund to accept task order 2021-06 amendment 1, and it was seconded by Stephen Harper. Questions on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor with aye.
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 Those opposed? Hearing none, the task order will be signed. So then we're down to G, which is the local agency consultant agreement, construction services. Ben, you're going to tell us about that again.
You bet. Thank you, Mayor.
So in a different.
So in a different form, this isn't construction dollars in it. Funding, there's a different form that's required. That's reviewed, one by the CA and two by local programs at Washington State Department of Transportation. This is for the City Safety Improvements Project, the one we talked about earlier, that includes illumination and flashing stop signs at Floral and Second, as well as guardrail improvements, sidewalk improvements, and access control at First and Crystal Creek there. It is a short duration contract, expecting only 12 working days. There's not a lot there for construction work, but it is one that we want to get out early to try to get good contractor interest and some competitive bids. And so this is for the construction administration, construction inspection, and grant management. And again, this is funded in 100% by FHWA with no city match. Any questions on this agreement? And this one actually has been reviewed and approved by the CA as well. I don't think that was included in the agreement, but that is on file with the CA.
Any professional services negotiated or rail consultant agreements. The maximum amount of $29,000 is presented in the item 11G.
Second.
Moved and seconded to authorize the mayor to sign the local agency consultant agreement for construction services, city safety, whatever, to the tune of 29,000 maximum. Questions on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor with aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none opposed, the local agency consultant agreement will be signed. So now, Ben, I think you probably are free to go.
Made it this long.
Go home, Ben. Yeah, thanks, Ben. Yes. That was really something, isn't it?
Rob, I didn't ask you though, are you
We got comment right here too.
Oh, okay, so that what you're talking about, thanks, Ben,
Appreciate you coming.
yeah,
Nice to see you.
Yeah, well, you saw the show firsthand.
Yes. What was on the other end of the first one?
It was impossible, wasn't it? Wow. Okay, so the next one is, Rob's gonna walk us through it, but basically is the, what they call .09 money, and this is a 2022 distressed county sales tax between Kittitas County and the city of Elum. Go ahead, Rob.
He pretty much said it, but yeah, anyways, this is an agreement between the county and the city. We applied for distressed county sales monies, and COG evaluated it, gave a recommendation to the county commissioners, and the county commissioners have approved an amount for us, $260,500, and asking the council to approve the mayor to sign this agreement.
So, where is the signature page on this thing? We can see where the county sent it to us, right? And where's mine? We've applied for it. Oh, right there, there it is. Oh, yeah, page 7, okay, that's what I was looking for. Yeah, we've applied for it, and it was a COG thing, and I understand that.
I make a motion that we accept the 2022 distressed county sales and use tax infrastructure Kittitas County and City of Elum in the amount of $262,500.
Moved and seconded to sign the agreement between the Kittitas County and the City of Clallam for the 2022 Distressed County Sales and Use Tax Infrastructure to the tune of, where is it?
262,500.
262, oh yeah, there is 500, yes. I was there. I remember when it happened. Questions on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor with aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Oh, sorry, Beth.
She was right on it.
I know she was. Those opposed? Hearing none, all in favor, hearing none,
Motion passes.
passes. Jeez, losing track here. Okay, this, Kirk, are you with us?
I am, thank you.
Hey.
Hey, we're at the interlocal.
Law enforcement, animal control with the city of Roslyn.
Yeah, so each year that the contract between the city of Clallam and Roslyn expires, then a new contract is submitted, and that is for police services, complete police services, and animal control services as well. And that was drafted by the city of Clallam, presented to the city of Roslyn, and the Roslyn council passed the ordinance on December 15th, or excuse me, that local agreement. So therefore, we'll continue with police services for Roslyn as always. The only real change on that was the adjustment for inflation and the increased cost of business. So their contribution rate is higher on this contract than it was in previous ones.
Quick question.
Sure.
I notice it still mentions South Clallam in this. Does that have any bearing on anything whatsoever?
Oops, I lost my ear. Hang on. So my understanding is that the town of South Clallam has opted not to sign that agreement, and their services with us will end on February 18th. Were you able to hear me?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
So the mayor's already signed this. Do we need to, what do we need to do here?
Yeah, exactly. I know, that's what just reporting.
Okay.
Say that. What was your comment?
I believe Kirk's just reporting.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, we haven't had a film meeting, so this is kind of like.
Signed, but we're following up.
Following.
Do we need to?
Yeah, do we like retroactively?
I think so.
Okay, I make a motion that we concur with the mayor's signature on the law enforcement and animal control agreement with the city of Roslyn.
Second.
Moved and seconded to concur with the mayor's signature of the interlocal agreement for law enforcement and animal control of the city of Roslyn. Question on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor with aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, we appreciate that. The concurrence. Okay, next we have, of course, the interlocal agreement on inmate housing. Kirk, you can do that again.
Yes, I know we talked about this months ago, last year. This contract has been ongoing back and forth between our attorneys and the county's attorneys, and it's just a matter of language. And basically, it's the same local agreement we've had with the jail services for the last 9 years, 10 years that I know of. However, this one also reflects higher daily rates to house inmates. And there was another clause that came into play for if a Clallam prisoner were to be violent and had to be separated and contained in their cell by themselves instead of a double occupancy cell, we would be charged double. I mean, that's completely understandable. I understand why they did that. I really don't think that's going to affect us, especially with all the new COVID restrictions, et cetera. The jail has been very vigilant on trying to keep COVID away from the inmates and keep their safety in mind. So they've been practicing, separation, et cetera, throughout the entire jail system. So as far as seeing our prices double for a specific inmate due to being held by themselves, at this point, I think is very low. And other than that, the rest of the agreement has been the same as always. So I strongly suggest and request that agreement be signed as written.
I make a motion that we sign the interlocal agreement between the city of Elum and Kittitas County for the housing of inmates as listed here with the daily prices and various items as listed.
Second. Moved and seconded to authorize the mayor to sign the interlocal agreement between the city of Elum and Kittitas County for the housing of inmates for the year 2022 through 2024.
So we're good. We signed this and we're good for 3 years. We know what our rates will be going up a little bit each year.
Let's see. So questions on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor with aye?
Aye.
Opposed? The interlocal agreement will be. Now we hear from the Law and Justice Grant Agreement from Kirk. Kirk.
Okay, so this grant was for a grant that we applied for last year. Is through the Law and Justice Council. And we were awarded a grant to put money towards training. And that training was to purchase simunition guns. And what those are they're firearms that don't shoot bullets, as you would normally understand what ammunition is. They shoot a projectile that's made out of soap. And they mark when they're hit an object. And so what we could do is we could actually have very realistic training through our firearms instructor using firearms in a safe manner. They're more expensive than normal guns, and their ammo is more expensive than actual bullets. However, the training is better than just shooting at a paper target. We can actually use these in real life scenario acting. And it's something we've needed for years, and we finally were able to obtain that through a grant process. I didn't pay for all of it, but it did pay for the majority for the guns. So that they have been purchased with that grant money, and we currently have them as part of our training program. I'm sorry, if Ken asked a question, I didn't get any of it.
Is there? Is there an amount of money in this?
Yes, it was for $2,000. The initial bill was just under 2,500, so we got 90%. And the remaining money I was able to just utilize our equipment fund for 2021.
Moved and seconded to authorize the police chief to sign the Law and Justice and the grant for the funds between Kittitas County and the Quail Police Department. Questions on the motion?
Question. Is it okay to have the chief of police sign this?
The agreement is between the two of them. That's what it reads in the title.
Yeah, I know, but I mean.
We can authorize him to do it.
Okay.
We can authorize him.
Okay.
Yes. prosecuting attorneys.
We have the power to let them take money from the county.
Force the law and all that, absolutely. Yes.
Okay, any other questions on the motion? If not, all in favor with aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, the police chief is authorized to sign the law and justice grant agreement. Okay, the next one is resolution 2022-002, adopting a non-discrimination policy. Rob, why don't you explain this for council?
Righty, thanks, Honorable Mayor, City Council. This is a resolution to adopt a non-discrimination policy and essentially some housekeeping. With the CDBG grants, they prefer us to use their forms, and this form that you see on the back of the resolution is in their form. So that's what we need to follow. It's a lot easier for our treasurer to keep track and for CDBG to make sure that we have the right policy in place. So with that, I would ask the council to approve the mayor to sign the resolution.
I move that we pass resolution number 2022-002.
And I would second it for discussion.
Moved and seconded to authorize the mayor to sign the resolution of the city of Cleveland, Washington, adopting a non-discrimination policy. Questions on the motion?
Just a comment, just so the public knows, this is a policy of non-discrimination against people who are protected under the Americans with Disabilities Act.
ADA. Yes. Any other questions on the motion? If not, all in favor with aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, the resolution 2022-002 is adopted, and it will be signed by the mayor. Next, the library agreement, interlocal agreement with Kittitas County Library Services. Yeah, before you, Rob.
Okay, thanks, Mayor, City Council. Taking money again from the county. So this is basically every year the library directors get together and meet with the commissioners to discuss how to subsidize the library's budget. And that is so that the individuals in the unincorporated county can come and use the library for free. And so this year was the most that we've ever received, or will be receiving from them, is 25,000. So it definitely helps the library budget, and would recommend approving the mayor and the library board and the mayor to sign this agreement.
So moved.
Second.
Move to second to authorize the mayor to sign the city county library service agreement. Questions on the motion?
$25,000.
Yeah. Any other questions? All those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Aye.
That said aye?
Yes,
I said aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Those opposed, there's none opposed, the library service agreement will be signed. What's that?
Talking about, sorry. Extending the live stream to later.
Yeah, okay, now, is there any committee reports? Okay.
Seeing as
Oh.
we don't have a chair, and we don't have, I don't know, have you publicly announced committee assignments yet?
No, I haven't.
Could you announce, if you know it at present?
One committee, one that I will do right now, I haven't done the rest, is I'm assigning John Galando to the budget committee. Is there any others? I haven't decided on the others.
That's the only thing I can think of that would need more immediate movement.
Yes. Okay. And the rest we'll discuss in the future. So now 12A, and this is council comments requested by Matt here.
So I wanted to, so when I joined the council 2 years ago, the first thing that I recall us doing was moving our meeting date from Tuesdays to Mondays for various accommodations. One had to do with overlapping with Rosalind's meeting so the police chief could go, and also being able to get stuff to the paper with a little more time and things like that. I think one of the unintended consequences we had moving our meetings was we now meet the same nights as the school district. And the superintendent has mentioned to me on multiple occasions, especially as the 47 degrees north stuff had come up, that she regretted to not be able to attend our meetings. And now as a parent with a kid in the schools, I'm now unable to go to the school board meetings because I'm here. And so I wanted to bring up for discussion the possibility of us again, looking at moving our meetings either to just the opposite Mondays or potentially back to Tuesday, because we wouldn't be stepping on Rosalind anymore, because I think they meet at like 4:30 in the afternoon now. But I was hoping that we could do that so that parents like me would not have to choose which meeting to attend, and also to make sure that the superintendent would be able to participate in our meetings as well when necessary.
So when does the school board meet?
So they meet on the second and fourth Mondays at identical to ours, yes. And so whether it's moving it to the first and third Mondays or looking at potentially back to Tuesday.
Any thought of asking the school board to change when they meet?
Salary, it's good.
They were there first. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess we could do that. Is there a reason that we wouldn't
The
be willing to move?
newspaper is a big important administration.
We had those reasons that you mentioned for moving.
Right.
I'm not an advocate of one thing or another.
So I'm gonna interrupt, sorry.
We don't have to.
Sure, we don't.
Part of it is, that this is a city business meeting.
I agree.
And we need to, it's already set, we know the stuff, we need to get our work done. And that's the wait an extra day. It also makes it a lot easier to get it in the paper.
Agreed. So I guess my question is, so is there a reason the first and third Mondays would not be just as amenable to
Well, I'll tell you
everyone?
what,
And then we're not on the same schedule?
let's look at it.
Okay.
Let's look and see.
I know for my schedule, I have monthly meetings that often fall on the first Monday.
Yes,
Tuesday,
okay. So I'll tell you what, so let's discuss it. We'll come back and we'll look at it and we'll see, he has issue, I do this, we'll see.
And might we ask the school board? Be interested in changing to first and third?
I suppose we could do that.
Okay.
I don't know who does that.
I like the idea of not meeting at the same time. I think it's good government.
Right.
Pay attention.
That's my thinking is.
Thank you for bringing it up. It's legitimate for sure. And so let's talk about it.
Let's keep it on there. We'll bring it back up again. And now we have something else. So.
And yeah, my second thing is something that we talked about in our discussions with the handbook, but also just, and I think Willie brought it up as well, is there I was hoping that as a council, we could have an opportunity to have a meeting to discuss our goals for the next year or 2 years, and potentially also get presentations from the Downtown Association and from other folks to not only give the new council members that holistic view of what's going on, but frankly also all of us to either get a reminder or otherwise good information, and potentially even some tours like of the water sewer plant, looking at other city facilities. So I feel like I've taken that upon myself to do some of that, but I think it would be good as a group for us to do that, because it gives us a chance to potentially have discussions of things we didn't know, and it could be something that's publicly noticed, so it wouldn't be a
violation of the meeting, but I think at least having the first part, at least having that meeting where we're able to, have a free-ranging discussion about things we want to look at for the year, I think is important. And I know most councils do that, and it's not something that we do.
We could definitely, in conjunction at some date here, set a meeting to set those priorities and those interests for sure. We're gonna be doing one. We took a while. We figured out one for the handbook, and then we'll schedule a study session with the council to discuss those items about what other activities we as a council want to pursue. Is that what you're basically saying? Okay. So we'll do that. We'll figure that out. I don't know about the date right now, but we will definitely figure out a time in the future to do that, sooner than later.
Sooner than later is what I'm
Sooner
hoping
than
for.
later.
Yeah.
No, I'm not gonna wait till November.
Okay.
But definitely sometime, at least by February, perhaps.
Okay.
But definitely.
Thank you.
Fit that in somehow. Stephen.
I'd like to raise a concern. There's a growing angst between independent snow removers and city crew.
Mhm.
And it has to be brought out in public. I'm not looking to push blame or assign blame. What I'm saying is there has to be some way that these issues are mitigated. It's rising to the point where it's a public safety concern. So there has to be coordination of the efforts. And I don't believe that it has to be city lays down the law and then private parties just decide they'll do whatever. I think that it needs to be a collaboration between the parties. And we need to get them talking, not yelling, because what happens is everybody yells when they're upset, when they feel like they've been ignored, et cetera. And so figuring out a constructive way to bring these parties to the table and communicate.
Can you be more specific about, that's very vague.
Okay, I'll be specific. I don't want to get into a gripe session. I don't want to get into a blame session, but there are accusations from the city crew that, and they're probably legitimate on both sides. The accusations come from the city crew about improprieties or how they're not, they're stacking snow up in the wrong places, or they're not, handling snow the right way. The private parties are. And then the accusation, I'll say it for myself personally and from other snow removal people that are either doing it privately or that are doing it as a business, is that they come and they clear wide swaths of the city's right of way and the person's right of way, and then it gets covered in snow from adjacent properties by the city.
So we will have a meeting with the parties.
Well, I would also like to ask that you have the private people referring to actually the job that I reached out to and have
So we will do that.
I'm just saying that I've had several conversations with the private contractors. I'm curious on all the private contractors.
So we'll figure that out, but we won't do it at the meeting tonight. At the meeting, but we will get all those people concerned in one room. And we'll have a cordial conversation. All right, that's enough of that. Because it's contentious, it's a problem everywhere.
Here's the thing is,
yeah,
I'm not being a bad person for bringing this up. It is a safety concern, because if people are clearing snow from their properties and then snow is being placed back on their properties, okay, that's a theft of service issue. It's also a safety issue if people can't get around the snow. This is not just a light concern, and I don't think that any one party is at fault or has to make this solvent. I think that a collaborative effort between all the parties.
Yes, because there's a lot of aspects to that, and I've been dealing with it big time for some time. We will do that. We'll find some way to clear the air and come to a conclusion.
An illustration I like to throw out there, and I think this would be help people understand, is if you had a garbage can and somebody emptied your garbage can and somebody and then another party came and threw garbage in your garbage can, that's called theft of services. If somebody clears your snow and then the city piles it right back where your snow was cleared, people rightfully feel that that is a theft of a service.
So we'll discuss that. Okay. Thank you. We'll discuss it. So now, we're going to go into an executive session. It will be short, 20 minutes, but we're going to move ourselves to library. Well, we're finally getting caught up.
We just had 2 meetings back to back. We just had 2 meetings back to back.
Okay, let's see, where are we? It's,
We gotta wait 2 minutes, right?
2 minutes? I can't see the clock. Is it 2 minutes?
Well, 1 minute and 3 seconds.
Kathy, can you hear it, or are you back? Can you hear it?
I'm here.
You can hear it. Okay, the other thing I want to mention, since we're waiting, I did, there was a request that we put the PowerPoint on our city website for people to be able to look at it and see what it was that they proposed. All right, so we'll have a copy of this, and there must be some, you got it. And put it on there so people can see and think about it themselves.
We got 15 seconds.
Oh, 15 seconds. Yeah, Beth, you still. Are you feeling okay? Are you feeling okay?
I'm feeling okay.
Well, she's got exposed big time. So she's being extra cautious about.
10:35, we're good.
Okay, it's 10:35. We're back in the city council room, and the executive session is over, and I entertain a motion to adjourn.
I would like to make a motion to adjourn.
No, you
Second.
can't. The meeting is adjourned. Okay, guys. Thank you, everybody.
Bye, Gabby.
Let's see.
Bye, Kat.